Did you give me this?
What?
How come you just cover?
No.
I guess I don't know how to respond.
Let me say.
I mean, I just, yes, the answer is,
Okay.
Roger, speak to the, right behind you.
Yes.
In case you were going to say something, I just wanted to know if he was standing behind you.
And your mic's up. Take one.
Thank you.
we obviously need to.
I will give you some suggestions.
Thank you for talking with me. I know.
Volatility, we intended.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know.
South. Oh, biopsy negative.
Oh, good, that's good.
You have plenty of time.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. 3 o'clock.
They seem to be moving along slowly, but moving along. Did you see the other one, the one across from Sequoia? How much progress he made? And then I'm telling you, that one, PSCG property is. Oh,
That's for you.
yes, really nice. Yeah, little courtyards, hidden, whatever. Yeah, you know what? I was going to tell them, PSCG, we're going to do we'll do them, but it's just not a top priority. We're also going to do a bid to get additional snow plowing services from the contractor. So we might be able to, if they're willing to pay for the.
Good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in a salute to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2016 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2015, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams? Here. Mr. Rodman?
Here.
Mr. Larrier? Here. Mr. Lembrick?
Here. Good night, CC.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to prohibit or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas it desires this governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time it conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 18th meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. We're going to be doing something a little different tonight. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to go outside to unveil the historic designation plaque for this building. And we have members of the Historic Preservation Commission here. We're very happy to have you here. We invite everyone to come on out there. We'll say a couple of words. Someone from the Historic Preservation Commission will say a few words. And then at the conclusion, we'll come back in here. When we come back in here, we have two proclamations. One is the Community Coalition on Race, the 20th anniversary. The second is we have a proclamation on Bullying Awareness Month. And we'll be doing those as soon as we come back. We'll then have a public comment period on agenda items. So if you want to speak to us on agenda items, we invite you to come up at that time. Introduce yourself, tell us your address, and share what you'd like with us. After that, we'll have a public session, comments on the leaf blower ban pilot program. So if you want to speak about the leaf blower, that will be the second public comment period. So we'll have a public comment period on agenda items, and then we'll have a public session on the leaf blower. And I'll prompt everyone so you know exactly when you might want to come up. After that, we have a couple of ordinances on final passage. One is to do time-limited parking on Tuscan Road. Second is to increase the jitney fees and parking fees. Third is to expand the list of vehicles eligible for a discount for commuter parking fees based on fuel efficiency. Then we have a couple of new ordinances. One is a stop sign at the corner of Hilton Avenue and Vermont Street. Second is a stop sign at the corner of Tiffany Place and Meadowbrook Road. We have one discussion item, establishment of a senior advisory committee. Then we have our consent agenda. We have 9 items there, a couple of resolutions, which we are making a few appointments related to our affordable housing program. We'll be approving bills and claims, requesting the installation of an additional crosswalk on Wyoming. We have a special item of budget. We received a $3,000 grant for our Solar Challenge campaign, and we'll also be approving minutes. We'll have our second public comment period, so as the meeting goes along, if you'd like to stick around and say something again, we'll have our second public comment period. We'll have reports from elected officials, reports from administrative departments, elected officials, and then we will adjourn. Before we go out there, though, I wanted to share with any of you and anybody who might be watching that today is the last day for voter registration, and the clerk's office is open until 9 p.m. So you have about an hour and 25 minutes if you still want to register to vote. We're here. You can come down to Town Hall. If anyone here knows someone who might want to register to vote, you can give them a call, have them come down, fill out a voter registration form. We'll be here till 9 o'clock doing those voter registration forms. Okay, so we invite you to join us outside. We're going to go right out the front door here and on the steps, and the plaque is on the wall, and we'll have a little ceremony. You also can stay here if you don't want to go outside. You can just hang out here.
got such a discerning
Yes.
eye.
You have what?
Having now seen it.
What? Oh, yes, yes, yes. Now I see.
My discerning eye.
What was your? Yeah, no. Okay, thank you for joining us out there. We're going to get started. Before we do the proclamations, I just wanted to share with you, it seems appropriate to share with you at this time. On Saturday, we received this plaque across the street at Memorial Park. We were designated by the New Jersey chapter of the American Planning Association as one of the great public places in New Jersey for 2016. So that was Memorial Park. We had a nice little ceremony out there. We did a tour of the park, ended up at the library where we talked about how in the future we hope to integrate the library more with the park and the park with the library. So it's been a special week to honor our forefathers and mothers for the work that they did in creating this wonderful building and the wonderful park across the street and even building the library. So hopefully we will continue that legacy as we go forward. But I wanted to share with you this special award we got on Saturday. Now we have two proclamations. I'm going to do the proclamation for the Community Coalition on Race, and Mrs. Larrier is going to do the one on Bullying Awareness Month. So we can have the CCR people come on up. So we have a proclamation honoring the Community Coalition on Race, its 20th anniversary. Whereas the South Orange Maplewood Community Coalition on Race celebrates 20 years of working to achieve and sustain the benefits of a thriving, racially integrated, and truly inclusive community in Maplewood and South Orange that serves as a model for the nation. And whereas the Community Coalition challenges itself, the town governments, the schools, civic organizations, and residents to embrace unique, intentional efforts to develop and sustain an inclusive community. And whereas the Community Coalition proudly sponsors the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. observance, the volunteer fair, and weekend of service for South Orange, Maplewood, and surrounding communities. And whereas the Coalition schedules events and activities throughout the year that model, spotlight, and promulgate interracial understanding, including conversations on race, coffee house discussions, integration through the arts, the annual preschool open house, Soma Integrated Playgroup, and the Multicultural Festival. And whereas the Coalition supports diversity and inclusion through the Civic Engagement Institute, the Home Maintenance Loan Program, the Realtor Advisory, Affirmative Action Community Marketing. Now, therefore, I, Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, on behalf of the Township Committee, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2016 as Community Coalition on Race Month in the Township of Maplewood, and in so doing affirm the continuing commitment of the Township of Maplewood to support the goals of the South Orange Maplewood Community Coalition on Race. Congratulations.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Gagne, the Executive Director of the Community Coalition on Race. I want to thank all of the Maplewood Township Committee members for presenting us with the proclamation. We do have our 20th anniversary celebration coming up this Saturday. We still have seats. We encourage people to attend. And given all the things that have happened in our region and across the nation, and that we still face, even in our community where we are intentional about integration, we still have so much work to do. So building interracial understanding, all the things that are in this proclamation continue to be so important to us and to our community. We encourage people to come out, be part of the forums and workshops, and participate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we're going to have Township Committee Woman Larrier on Bullying Month.
And then cuddle here.
Is there anyone else or just?
Thank you. Well, in honor of Bullying Prevention Month, we have a proclamation here. Whereas students, teachers, leaders, and community members will gather today to bring awareness regarding ways to combat bullying, harassment, and intimidation in the Township of Maplewood. And whereas bullying is a preventable social ill with long-term negative effects in society, with 1 in 5 youth reporting being bullied at school. And whereas Safe Schools Action Network, along with other community organizations, have come together today to help create safe schools and spaces for all students and families around bullying. And whereas today's activity will increase the public's awareness of this problem and discuss alternatives to change the climate and culture of bullying that is adversely affecting our youth. Now, therefore, Mayor Vic DeLuca of the Township of Maplewood does hereby proclaim October as Bullying Prevention Month and October 20th as National Safe Schools Day in Maplewood, and calls upon the residents of the township to join him in increasing public awareness about ill effects and of the behavior we know as bullying, and work together to help create inclusive, safer schools and spaces for all students and families. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the Township Committee for raising awareness again on this very important issue during Bullying Awareness Month. And thank you again for highlighting the need of building inclusive, safe schools for all students and families in our communities to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start with our first public comment period. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee on an item that's on the agenda tonight, other than the lawn? Yes. Other than the leaf blowers? Anything else? Well, let's just leave it. Go ahead.
Joe Strupp, 7 Yale Street, and editor of MapleWoodian.com. I just wanted to praise the police and fire department for the great response to the fire Saturday night at Ostwood Terrace. We got to go and get good video coverage of it, but the firefighters and the rescue squad and the police and everyone who was there really worked diligently and put their lives at risk, if they always do. And this was a very stubborn fire. For anyone who was there, realized it kept popping up and they kept having to knock it down. And it was really great to see how quickly they got there and how well they handled the scene, and really dealt with something that a lot of people may not realize. It was a very difficult fire, covered a lot of fires, and this one was very stubborn and took a lot of work, and a lot of our firefighters put themselves at risk. And it should be noted that Mayor DeLuca was there as well, helping the Red Cross and the rescue squad and the police get a lot of help to the victims. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Mike Summersgill, 804 Prospect. I just wanted to applaud Township Committeeman Grodman for proposing the discussion item tonight on the committee, Senior Action Committee. I think it's a great idea to have that committee formed, and I hope the Township Committee will agree with Mr. Grodman. As we're putting together that committee, I just request that we think thoughtfully about who to include on the committee. So not just members of the public over the certain age, but we also have some very talented citizens who have specialty in this area. Kurt Kiley's been working on senior services for many years. Irene Dunn Savage is here, and I think she qualifies both as being over 60 and being very talented, so if we can get 2 birds with 1 stone there. You also have Edgar Brisbane, who's got expertise in the area. And so I would just request Mayor DeLuca, as being part of the age-friendly city's initiative and being on the governance committee, that we take it up with the committee to see what the consultants think are good people to include on our committee, since they have expertise. So it just seems like we have a good chance to get it right from the start, and I hope that we really think thoughtfully about who to have in the committee, and I hope you follow through and adopt it. So thank you, Mr. Godman.
Irene Dunn Savage, 14 St. Lawrence Avenue, Lakewood. I really would like to commend all of you for bringing this committee to hopefully fruition. And I in particular want to thank Ian Godman for really meeting with us and getting information that will hopefully lead to this being created. Lakewood Senior Share has been operating for about 3 years and really doing a ton of research on senior issues throughout the country, and sometimes you might be having your mailbox kind of zoomed with all kinds of information. And so I think that those are helpful in developing the perspective of what we see as developing a culture of caring. And a culture of caring means, to us, all ages coming together to support each other. And I think that's the only way that we can really function in a community such as ours, the diversity of all ages coming together and all races working together to create a really environment that satisfies the needs of seniors, which are very special, particularly in terms of housing. And again, thank you, and I hope I can make it to the discussion period.
I'm Mary Chevette, 17 Plymouth Avenue. I've been a resident of this town for 38 years. I too am concerned about the lack of senior services that are available in this town. I would like to nominate Irene Dunn Savage and Kirk Kiley, who have been working tirelessly to bring the problems of seniors to the forefront. And on a personal level, I would really like to see some sort of structured educational program to get all seniors up to speed on computers so that they can access the Township website, know what's going on through the town, receive emails from the town. And one other request, I think the town should provide a link, a senior link, so that seniors can post pertinent messages, useful information, useful documents, so that they can go to one place, one site, and access them. Thanks for your help.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Good evening, Jeanette Page Hawkins, Essex County Liaison. I have no remarks or anything this evening, but I am before you to solicit any issues or concerns that you'd like me to take back to the county. Any?
Just tonight we're going to be passing a resolution to add one more street, Ridgewood Terrace, to the list of Wyoming Avenue crosswalks. And now that school started, the sooner we can get those crosswalks, the better. I know you've been helpful in sharing that message, but it's the same message. We would just like to get those crosswalks.
That's Wyoming.
Well, it's a series of six crosswalks, 6 cross streets on Wyoming. And tonight we already sent 5. We're adding a 6th tonight, Ridgewood Terrace.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee on non-leaf blower matters? Non-leaf blower. Yeah, you can come up. Yep, and name.
How you doing? Anthony Payuka from 183 Franklin Avenue. Not too happy about this leaf program going on. As of right now, I already used 6 bags. Those bags are the worst bags that I ever used. I went down to DPW and I told them how I felt about it. I don't think it's fair. I pay taxes like the other side of Maplewood. I know it's a pilot, but if you're going to do a pilot, it should be everybody. It shouldn't be just a section of Maplewood. I asked them, what am I going to do with the leaves when, my last pickup, I think, is 11/28/16. And I says, what about if, I got two trees that, Mr. Luca, you know, behind you over there. I got an oak tree and I got a black walnut tree that sheds like you wouldn't believe. And I already got 6 bags. I says, what am I going to do after the last pickup? Can I come over here and dump? They said no. I don't think that's fair.
Well, part of the pilot is to learn these things and make adjustments as we go along. So I wouldn't say that that was the final word. If we get to November 27th and we see there's still people who have bags out, we'll figure out either a way to have it picked up or we'll have it.
Well, how would I denote it? Because I didn't even know. I already missed the first collection. If I didn't go down for a complaint and they gave me the schedule, that this is when we're picking it up, I had no idea. The only thing I got in the mail was this letter stating the fact that you're on a pilot program.
Right.
And that was it. And also, too, I don't think it's right that the homeowners, and I've talked to people in my neighborhood, and they're not happy because we have to go buy bags. The other side of Maplewood and behind us is getting picked up for free.
You get 15 bags for free.
I went to 6 already.
Okay, I understand that.
But why, I pay taxes like everybody else does in town. Now I have to go invest maybe another 25, 30 bags? I don't think that's fair when everybody else gets picked up for free.
Well, this is what we're trying to learn. We're trying to learn if this is something that we should do across town. We picked this area because it has narrow streets. We're trying to get the cars to flow there, parking on the streets, trying to make it safer. And we're also trying to see if this saves us personnel and cost. And that's what we're trying to learn. This is an experiment. We had to pick someplace. I'm affected too. I live behind you.
No, I know that.
And, you know, so I got the same trees you got. I have 15 bags. And we're going to learn about this.
As it says, for safety on the roads. The street's more narrow on this side, number one. The majority of the streets over there, and you know, I think they're pretty wide, number one. Number two, the more concern for safety, I would say, is during the snow removal. When cars are buried for 3-4 days, and there's a jockey all the way around trying to get through the town. Keeping them clean also, I think that's ridiculous because I haven't seen a street cleaner. And I even told DPW, I said, I saw him at the beginning of the summer at the end of Hilton Avenue where my uncle lives. And I was going to move over because he was coming down the strip and I didn't want my uncle to yell at me because I parked there. The guy was down there for 10 minutes. Doing what? No idea.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. First of all, we're looking at the street sweeper because we can check on that. On the leaf stuff, you know, we're going to learn as we go along over the next month and a half. And if we have to make adjustments, we can make adjustments during this period because that's part of the learning process.
Okay.
And then at the end, we'll evaluate it. This may not work, but we had to start somewhere. This was a very confined area, has nice long streets to try this out. And so we had to pick a place. We picked here.
But the concern is now also, like I said, a lot of neighbors complaining about they have to go buy bags when everybody else is getting it done for free. That was the big concern of my neighbors, my aunts and uncles around there, and a lot of the old timers that have been there for 50, 60 years.
They don't have to buy it. They get 15 bags for free from DPW.
Understood that completely. But
and
after the 15, what do we do?
If there are more bags needed, that's something we'll learn.
Okay.
And we might
I was told I had to go buy.
Well, let's figure out how it works.
Okay.
Okay. We have some weeks to go as it works, as we go on. So,
all right.
Okay. Every house in that neighborhood is getting 15 bags for free. So no one should be buying them at this point. Not even you. If you use 6, you still got 9 more.
And it didn't even start with all the leaves.
Right.
So now what happens after the 15? I got to go buy. Am I right?
Well, let's see. Let's see what happens.
Well, how am I going to know, though?
We'll see what happens. We'll see how fast your bags fill up.
So when I run out of 15, I go down to the DPW, which is basically what you are saying, and see how the bags are left over, whatever they have.
What would really be helpful is if you do run out of bags, would be to notify DPW that you've run out of bags, because that's the other thing we're trying to find out.
All right. I wasn't told that, to tell you the truth. I was down there yesterday.
Okay.
And I had a discussion with
Calvin.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to close the public comment period, and we're now going to go into a public session on the leaf blower ban pilot. As you know, we did a pilot. I'm going to ask, before we start, I'm going to ask Ms. Adams, Deputy Mayor Adams, if she'd like to make some comments. And then we'll ask you to come up. We just ask if you would give us your name and address. If you're a landscaper, we'd like to get your name and your business, just so we know who we're talking to. You want to make some comments?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So tonight, as the Mayor just said, we're seeking input from residents in particular about the pilot ban of leaf blowers this past summer. Originally, I advocated for this leaf blower ban because as someone who works from home, I was weary of the interruption in my day by the proliferation of leaf blowers used by landscapers. I literally could not escape the noise at some point during every day of the week. Some days were worse than others, like yesterday when I sat down to make notes for my introduction of this discussion, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, from 9 a.m. to about 3:45, I spent time opening and closing doors in my house so that I could function, because I would open them and then there'd be another leaf blower somewhere within earshot of my house. So some of them were far away, some of them were 2 blocks away, some of them were right across the street. So this is actually what I did yesterday while I'm trying to work. So it's an issue. However, during the last few months of a lot of research on my part, a lot of reading on my part, and a lot of research and reading and information gleaned from our subcommittee of volunteers from town who have been also researching and providing information for us to, what we will ultimately do is summarize that information in a few months' time, and that subcommittee will give that information to the Township Committee so that we can decide whether or not this is something we want to continue doing, whether we want to change anything in the existing ordinance, or whether we want to create a new ordinance altogether. So there's a lot of information discussion that needs to happen yet, and that's why we invited you here tonight to give us your thoughts on it as residents and as commercial landscapers. I want to add also that the subcommittee did interview 3 landscapers and the executive director from the New Jersey Association of Landscapers. And on top of that, we have 2 more scheduled for our next meeting. So we are interviewing on one at a time the landscapers to get their input. From the research so far that I have, aside from the noise, which as I said was, my initial reason for wishing these weren't invading my house, the environmental issues and the health issues associated with these 2-stroke engines, which by the way have been disallowed on motorcycles since early 1990s because they are dirty, but they are everywhere for backpack leaf blowers. So the emissions, the particulate matter, and just so many environmental and health concerns with them that we're learning in this research. So while I've heard and I've read that this issue is unimportant, that the Township Committee should have be working on other things, I believe this is a public health issue first and foremost. That said, we are compiling research from the subcommittee, as I've said, and we'll be making a decision down the road as to how to move on. And while I'm sure the Township Committee has, I know I don't, have any desire to hurt existing businesses, it's also very important to be responsible for providing our residents with a clean and environmentally healthy place to live. So what would be nice to hear from all of you who've come to speak on this tonight, from the commercial landscapers, the obvious things that, we've heard already about needing these to do your work. I'd like you to, and that you don't want them banned, I'd like to hear some solutions that might be able to help all of us come to a different conclusion than just banning them. I'd like to hear your ideas for getting the bad actors. There were this summer, for example, many of the landscaping companies adhered to the ban and did not use their leaf blowers. However, there were some of your competitors who did. And as we've learned in our interviews, that makes for an unlevel playing field, and that's not fair to you, who are obeying the law. I also would like to get your ideas, because 13 years ago there was a law created in Maplewood by another township committee that used your input and tried to negotiate and enacted a 65 decibel level limit until October 15th, something that I think all of you can honestly agree is not adhered to either. So these are the issues that we face. So I'd like more than just, we can't have you ban them. I'd like some ideas from you if possible. From the residents who are against the ban, I'd love to know why you are. What are you concerned about that your contractor can't do their job properly, or what issues you have with not being in favor of banning the leaf blowers for the summer? And for those who are in favor of the ban, I'd like to hear, obviously, your reasons why and what impact it may have had on you. So that's my introduction. So I don't know if you want other members of the Township Committee or just the...
I'd like to just to reiterate something that Nancy said. I mean, and also to speak for myself, what I'm most interested in tonight, what I think will be most useful to me and other members of the Township Committee as we move forward and consider what to do about this issue, will be, what do you know, or what can you share with us tonight that that you didn't know or couldn't have shared with us, at least from a place of knowledge 6 months ago. We had this ban in place for a few months this summer, and what I'd want to know from the lawn maintenance businesses, the contractors, is how did it affect your business? What ways did you find to do the things that you would usually do with the leaf blowers, or what ways couldn't you do it? And what ideas, as Deputy Mayor Adams said, do you have for moving forward that might be a good compromise? For residents who are here, either pro or con, how did you find the ban this summer? Did you find that it made a noticeable difference? Did you find that it wasn't much of a difference? Did you find that other equipment was just as loud and it didn't really, you didn't notice the lack of leaf blowers? And that's the sort of thing that I want to know. I mean, we heard the arguments before we passed the pilot program about what was expected and the general arguments pro and con. But I think, the reason why we're doing this tonight after we've had the experience of the pilot program is to really get input both from the business people and the residents on the program itself. So obviously you can say whatever you want, but I think for me, that's what would be most useful to hear about the experience from the pilot program and what you'd like to see going forward.
Okay, so my guess is there's quite a few of you that want to speak, so we're going to ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you need more, we can give you a little bit more, but try to keep it to 3 minutes for this portion.
Good evening. My name is Tori O'Connell. I live at 5 Owen Drive in Maplewood. I found the ban blissful. I was grateful. I would love to see it enacted again and extended if possible. I work at home, I write at home, and I think at home. We are at work here right now. We are accomplishing things. We have two important elements here at work to foster our ability to compose our thoughts, order our ideas, and make our points clear for all. Light and quiet. I'm not being paid for composing my thoughts right now, but during the day I am. But I'm not the only one. Writers, composers, journalists, designers, artists, musicians, mothers of napping children, and school children who have homework to do after school are all affected by leaf blowers. Approximately 720 minutes of my week, each week, are affected by the deafening sound of not one, but often multiple leaf blowers, which I find unnecessary for sometimes the very small, including my own postage stamp size of yard. When friends and acquaintances who live in Park Slope and Jersey City and Hoboken and the Upper East Side and West Side ask me if they should move to Maplewood, I tell them it's beautiful. I tell them it's diverse. It's a wonderful place to raise your children. It's a fabulous place to live. But I also tell them it's very, very loud. And that's what I tell people thinking about moving to Maplewood and South Orange. It's very, very loud. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. This is going to work just on your own volunteer movement. So if you want to speak, you can either come up here and sit in the front row or get up, but I'll just ask who's next. So go ahead.
Hello, I'm Earl Jaffe, 7 Tower Drive. Speaker, the ban had a very positive impact on our quality of life. I also work from home. I do websites. And I would like to suggest 2 things going forward. First of all, I agree that the ban should be repeated, if not extended. On Sunday, there's a year-long ban on leaf blowers until 11 o'clock. I would like to see this extended to Saturday. Those of us who, like my wife, work in the city and work very long hours, and Saturday morning as well as Sunday morning is really the only time to relax in a quiet environment. And on Saturday, leaf blowers are legal starting at 7 a.m., which I think is too early. It would be great if, like Sunday, they could be banned until 11. The other thing I'd like to suggest is some training for the people who use the leaf blowers. And observing them, I see that a lot of them point their blowers right at the ground, straight at the ground, and go very slowly back and forth. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they think they're doing. What they are doing is blowing up a lot of the dust and the pesticides and chemicals that we put on our lawns. If we could just have a short training film for them to watch, just something 5 minutes, here's what you do, here's what you don't do, I think it would help a lot. A lot of the workers take seemingly hours. Our neighbor has the blower going from 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, and they're just going very slowly back and forth. I don't think that's what they're meant to do. So the training film, I think, would also have a positive impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Good evening. My name is Jody Shalan. I live at 58 Walnut Drive in Upper Saddle River. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association. We have about 550 member companies, which translates into about 10,000 landscape contractors that we represent. The goal of our association is to educate, help professionalize, and to protect our members. We don't oversee all of the landscape contractors in the state, but we try to influence them as much as possible. With the blower ban, with the pilot program, our biggest concern is the fact that it is specific to landscape contractors. So I'm speaking tonight on the subject of protecting our members. We've done research as well. We've discussed this at board meetings, and the reality is that Maplewood is the only town that is specifically targeting landscape contractors. Last time we were here, we spoke about bans in California, and we've downloaded what the bans are. Laguna Beach, California, the use of electrical or gasoline-powered blowers, commonly used by gardeners and other persons for cleaning lawns, yards, driveways, etc., is prohibited at any time within city limits. It's for everybody. Claremont, internal combustion engine, power leaf blowers shall be prohibited after March 1991. So they're going pretty far back. Beverly Hills, Same thing, gasoline engines to blow dirt, leaves, and other debris off sidewalks is prohibited. And the majority of these are under a noise disturbance statute. They're not, they go along with other things that make noise. If we look at Los Altos, they have loudspeakers, animals and birds, barking dogs. They're pretty serious out there. They have meows and squawks as noises, but it's under a noise ban. Los Angeles, same thing. No gas-powered blowers shall be used within 500 feet of the residence at any time. I'm not sure what the thinking is there. Malibu, California, same thing. It's a noise ordinance, and it's not specific. If we look at, and I'm going to keep to my time, if we look at the Township of Maplewood, the resolution is prohibiting use of leaf blowers by commercial lawn maintenance businesses. It is not for other businesses. It is not for tree companies. It is not for asphalt companies that use blowers. It's not for companies that stripe parking lots. It's not for builders. It's only specifically for commercial landscape contractors, and that is basically it's industry profiling, and we're being discriminated against. We're not going to say that the blowers don't make noise. They absolutely do. They are allowed. I agree that there should be hours that they should be able to be used. I think using them on Sundays should be prohibited in every single town. Saturdays, I agree as well. Or during the week, 7 o'clock is too early. There's other things that contractors can do. So we want to come up with solutions. I even worked with Montclair when they were trying to come up with their solution. But again, they don't discriminate against landscape contractors. They have specific times that of the year and specific times of the day that blowers can be used, but it's across the board. So we feel that we'd be more than happy to work with you to come up with a solution, but if it's going to be a ban on blowers, it needs to be a ban across the board, homeowners, everybody. If it's not going to be a ban, then obviously there's less for us to worry about. So that's I have to say about that. So thank you very much for your time.
So can I just ask you, I just want some clarity.
Sure.
So would the association be in favor of a ban if everyone was prohibited from using a leaf blower?
I wouldn't say they'd be in favor of it, but it would be preferred because it's fair. And the contractors that I spoke to, if they have to use rakes and brooms, it's going to drive up the cost. And I know we've talked about it at the subcommittee meeting, but the reality is if it takes 5 times as long to rake or broom sweep a driveway, that's say it takes an hour, that's 5 man-hours times $40, $50 a man-hour. Now you're paying $250 for something that you paid $50 for. So it's ultimately the consumer is going to pay for it one way or another, whether they have their properties are not taken care of as well because we can't use blowers or because they do want the same level of service. It's going to take more time to do it.
So those numbers you put out there, we haven't heard those numbers. I mean, you don't have any data that supports those numbers of instead of $50, it would cost $250. That was just a guesstimate, right?
Well, the labor rates are anywhere from $35 to $50 an hour as far as it's anecdotal, like a lot of the information.
But we haven't heard anything like that people are being charged that kind of money.
Yeah, since you identified some towns in California that have banned them entirely, there's also statistics that show that the quality of or the consumer satisfaction of the work is still positive and there haven't been complaints and that prices for the services have not increased. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, it's I don't know how the prices can increase because if it takes longer, which it does, I mean that's the reason that blowers were created, was because it's very time consuming to rake leaves.
Right, but in the summer when there's no leaves to rake, then because my observation this summer for those who adhered to the ban was that they were at the houses for less time. than they are when they're using the blowers. So maybe when there's no need for a blower, there's no need for a rake either, and therefore the fee shouldn't go up, perhaps.
No, that's a reasonable argument. I know the contractors I talked to, they use their lawnmowers to kind of blow off any of the debris, but it's really, we're outsiders. I live in a town, I live in Wyckoff, or Upper Saddle River now, and, I don't like when my neighbor runs his blower on Sundays. It drives me crazy. But as far as if people are willing to accept a lower quality of service, which doesn't mean the places are going to look terrible, but if they're willing to accept that and have us not use blowers during the summer, then that's going to be an individual choice of the residents of Maplewood.
I also want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us, the subcommittee, and provide your input. That was very useful.
No, I appreciate you giving us a voice.
I just have one question, if I could ask, and thank you again for coming here this evening and speaking on behalf of the landscapers. You've stated that you don't know how landscapers would not be able to raise their prices if they're doing this. As the organization that these landscaping companies belong to, have you collected any evidence that would demonstrate to us that landscape companies have had to raise their prices here in Maplewood because of the ban?
No, I have nothing. The members I spoke to was phone call conversations, but no, I don't have any specific data.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
My name is Ken Cerullo. I live in 9 Doremus Road in Mahwah, New Jersey. I'm an insurance agent, and I am the legislative, and I'm an attorney. I'm not representing the New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association, but I am an attorney, but I'm not representing them. But I'm their legislative chairperson. So in analyzing the ordinance and doing, I think the executive director, Jody, just did an excellent job outlining, many of the issues. But when you think of it, I just can't understand how it doesn't violate the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. It's discriminatory, and if you apply even the lowest level rational basis analysis, there's no rational basis to discriminate against children that are going to be. What about the children that are living next to the handyman that uses the blower all the time? It's only going to be so there's a health hazard, and these sucking up the emissions and the particulate matter for children next to a handyman that is using a blower. That's not discriminatory? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. What about the guy that's using that, and the children, those kids have to live next to that all the time, and they're sucking it in, but the other children don't?
So is your point that everybody should be covered by the ban?
I'm going to leave I'm going to leave to our executive director the position of the group, but I just needed to emphasize that one extra point. I just don't understand it, that how you could selectively say for landscape, lawn maintenance companies, why they can't use it. If it really is a health hazard, I can't see why it wouldn't go across the board.
Okay, since you're looking at me saying that, I feel.
I'm not, no,
No, but it's fine. The discussion back in the spring about this issue, some members of the Township Committee, and since it was a pilot and not an ordinance, it's just a resolution for the summer, some members on the Township Committee didn't feel right keeping our residents from using them. I personally would like them all to be not allowed for the reasons you state. Other contractors, such as a gutter person or something, they're typically not blowing the gutters every week on a certain day. They're just doing it once and gone. So a handyman, same thing. So I think there was, because the landscapers use them on a daily basis, on rotating week after week after week, that was the reason that the pilot covered that. So I don't want to speak for the rest of the time, but that was my...
Well, okay. No, and more minor points are, if it's a noise issue, it would appear like a noise ordinance, we might be able to deal with that. I just think there may be better ways to handle things. But my main point was really, if you have children next to a handy person that's always using a blower, it's just common sense. It's going to impact those children, and you have to do it across the board.
Okay,
I-
thank
I
you.
have a
Thank you very
question.
much.
Yes, we have a question. Hold on.
Thank you for coming this evening, and I'm sympathetic to the position that landscapers are in, but are you suggesting that landscapers are a protected class under the Constitution?
No, that's why I mentioned rational basis.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I'm not, once again, I'm not the attorney for the group.
Yeah, we got that. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
Hello, we're the McNeils, and we live on Oakland Road between Prospect and Valley. Thank you for the prior statements before you opened the floor. We weren't aware of what the driver was behind the decision to implement this policy. But as residents, people, I wasn't very thrilled. As a lawyer, I felt like it was tortious interference with our contract because we were bound to an annual contract with our landscaper. So I have like breathing problems, allergies and whatnot, and some of what the service and what they do, and also in using their blowers to keep things off and around that grow all over my porch. We have a very large home and a very large bit of land. That was one.
Right, and just to maintain, keeping the dust and the pollen off of our porches and our decks is what they use it for. And like she said, it kind of went against the contract that we had already previously signed with our landscape company to be able to provide these duties. So then they were not be able to, provide those duties within the contract that we signed with them over the months that you instituted this pilot program. We also understand, at least I noticed that the landscapers, they're going to find a way to, without, using hand tools. So in a sense, from a noise situation, I didn't hear the noise change because I noticed that most of the landscapers were using their lawnmowers as their blowers instead of the actual blowers themselves. And we're driving it around my driveway to get all the grass clippings and the dust and the dirt off the driveway instead of using their blower to do so. So there's still a motor running. It's a four-cycle motor instead of a two-cycle motor. So I understand there's a little bit noise pitch difference, but not a loudness difference. And so the situation of noise is not being curtailed by just banning the blowers. They're using other machines and other tools to do the same duties.
And also just to add, we are advocates of quiet. We did move here 2.5 years ago. I still work in New York City, and I can't get out of New York fast enough to get home, and I do look forward to the quiet. But I do think that a time, manner, place, some kind of restriction, some of the ideas that were already mentioned up here earlier should be considered. I would be fine, because, I don't feel like I should be able to have it my way all the time. I think you have to kind of address the spectrum of concerns here. I love the idea of no noise on Sunday, personally, but just some kind of restriction, even if it's a certain hour. I'm not sure how that would work for the commercial landscapers, but it's an idea as a solution. And also, I can appreciate, like one of the persons that spoke earlier about working from home. I do work from home 2 days a week. And also, my husband's recovering from a terrible accident almost a year ago, and I had to work home for like 60 days in a row. And I'm a lawyer, and I'm a very intense lawyer that has to read and have conference calls and whatnot. And I managed to, have quiet or be able to focus. But I'm not saying I don't empathize that might be more difficult for other people's occasions and whatnot. But I just want to put that out there. I just think there should be a better balance in terms of trying to cut back as opposed to just wiping it completely out. Everyone's property is different around here. And like I said, we have a jungle. We have a huge bit of land. And I hired someone to address those concerns. And I said also for me, it's a health reason. But as I stated earlier, I do appreciate, I didn't think about the environmental aspect, but I would want to see something more substantive that actually points exactly what the direct harms are, if there are any.
Yeah, that'll be in the research that we're compiling. I didn't want to go into a lot when I introduced the topic, obviously. To your point about the lawnmowers and stuff, I've noticed the same. I've also noticed brooms, which was nice. But the difference in the two-stroke engines that the leaf blowers are, just to get a little bit of background, is that they operate at a lower frequency level. That means the noise travels farther through doors, windows, and walls, whereas the four-stroke engines don't have that same pitch and they don't
I'm a
permeate.
sound engineer for a lot of years, so I do understand the difference between pitch
Right,
and volume.
right.
Like I said, I know the volume is not any different, the pitch is different, the pitch and the
Pitch,
frequency.
so
of
it
course,
travels
is different.
farther and it
Right,
goes through,
and they do affect the people in different ways and in different situations. But like I said, as a noise, a straight noise ordinance to say you can't be over a certain volume, well, volume is not addressing the actual issue.
Right.
So the issue is the pitch and the sound of the machine themselves. But so you can't just say, well, you've got to be under a certain volume because
Right,
they
that's
can
why
make just as much noise with a different motor.
Which is
and a
what
different
they-
engine, which can be just as detrimental to somebody else. Because everybody's ear is different and everybody's affected by pitch differently. So sometimes I do understand that the blowers make and can literally just hurt someone's ears because it's at the right pitch for that person to have discomfort. Whereas a lawnmower may not, but the lawnmower may affect that person differently and have the same problem with their ears.
Right.
So there is no across-the-board solution for everybody when it comes to noise. And, being a previous sound engineer, I do understand that there's just no way to curtail everybody because we all are different and we all have different effects when it comes to noise. But like I said, the situation really needs to be addressed differently in order to maintain what we're trying to do with our home and what we need to do with our home versus what's just affecting certain people that, just don't like the noise.
And the last thing I want to add on to is that that's also been mentioned up here again too, the whole discriminatory piece, let's call it that. There are other things, like there's a very challenged house that's on our street that I'm sure people know what house that might be, but they're doing
5153 Maplewood.
that they're doing like a lot of things with the, were they cutting trees? And I was like, what is going
The
on?
machine they had for taking out their stumps, ran for almost 8 hours the other day. So very annoying.
I'm just being even-handed. I'm just saying when you go back to revisit and look at this across the board, I'm sure you've already picked that up. But the thing is, there are other services and things that are going on. And again, we are for quiet, but time, manner, place, kind of restrictions is kind of what we're kind of advocating for.
Right. So something, grinding up stumps on a property is probably
not
very
fun.
loud and annoying,
Yeah.
but they're not doing it every week either, so. Unless they crazy or something.
Thank you. Yes.
I just have one comment or question. Presumably, were this to be incorporated in annually, presumably your contract would be written that included, correct?
Well, we'd have that qualification, but it wasn't at the time that you guys implemented this.
Right.
We were already bound at the beginning of the year.
Right.
So that's why that was the first thing I went to, and like, you're taking away what I'm still paying the same fee for, but I'm not getting the full scope of the services that I signed up for.
Right, well, if we were to make this annual, hopefully that particular aspect of the problem would be alleviated because there would be time to negotiate.
Right, and that would be a matter of the businesses actually having to revisit their pricing, and also, I'm not here to make sure that their pockets are filled, but at the same time, just thinking about the economic consequences, I'm sympathetic or empathetic. The onus would be on to them that if who's going to pull out of a service, like we have a large property that we can't physically maintain on our own right now, so I'm not likely to terminate my contract. It's either adapt, or not be pleased. But it puts me in a conundrum in that sense. But I understand what you're saying. When the contract comes up for renewal, I have to think, is it worth the value of what I'm paying? And I think in terms of the landscapers in general, they're going to lose business because of that. I think the suggestion about giving them training, and again, I really do think actually implementing time, manner, place, that kind of restriction might overcome and be a more middle of the road solution.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You can come on up if you want to get in line here.
Hold that mic down.
Acoustics are bad in here. My name is Susan Cohen Harris, and I live at 499 Summit Avenue. I've lived in Maplewood for 24 years. Like so many people, we moved here from Manhattan and then Jersey City. We loved the green of Maplewood, and we cherished the quiet. 14 years ago, we did a Maplewood to Maplewood move. We considered possibly going somewhere where the taxes were lower, but we love Maplewood, so we stayed. We were fortunate to find a home with a beautiful front porch. I can barely sit on that porch. because my neighbors have their landscapers come, and I'm one of the few people that are home during the day. They've been coming on Saturday when my husband comes home from work, and we can't have a discussion on the front porch. And I just want to know how it's not discriminatory toward the taxpayer that I can't enjoy my property, which is quite large, 125 feet wide by 150 feet deep. And we can't afford a landscaper right now. So, you know, we just get to hear all of the people around us. And it sounds sort of like Vietnam, you know, when they come. And I don't think there's any comparison to residential leaf blowers to commercial leaf blowers. Commercial leaf blowers are gas powered. No one seems to be talking about fossil fuel. I think that's kind of insane, you know, for a few months in the summer to blow a few blades of grass and make your property look really tidy. It just seems absurd to me. I try to walk a lot to not use my car. I couldn't walk up this street the other day because the landscapers were blowing. I was watching them. I didn't record it to bring here and play to you, but they were riding over the leaves with the sit-down mower, and the other guy was blowing the leaves while it was being mowed over in the street. So there was a huge cloud that covered the entire street, and of course they didn't see me or hear me. They can't hear. So I just had to walk through these gigantic dirt clouds of dust, you know, on my way home from running an errand. I just want to ask, why is it okay to disrupt my quality of life as a taxpayer so that, you know, my neighbors or someone else can have these blades of grass like perfectly, you know, put it back on the lawn and their property looks overgroomed? I mean, I think it's just above and beyond, you know, quiet enjoyment. I'm not able to enjoy my property anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Hartnett from Quarter Avenue, lived there for a little over 20 years. We're going to take a bit of a counterpoint. There's going to be a give and take. The give and take is going to either be I'm going to pay more for the resources. I have a 90-foot driveway. I work about 2 or 3 days out of my home, that balance of the week in New York, and I'm sorry about the noise. I hope we can find a compromise. If the compromise is a total ban, I'm either going to pay more or my property is, I've got a 90-foot driveway, I've got a pool that they blow around because you don't want it in the pool. I don't want it in the pool. I just don't know what the answer is. To ask someone to hire people full-time during the summer to sweep in July and August, I just find that difficult. I think labor costs, I don't know the labor studies. I happen to be background in economics, but I would imagine that the economics of trying to find someone to sweep, not feasible, not on a regular basis, or pay more. And I work a lot, very blessed to do so, but to pay more, something's going to have to give. The property may not look as nice as it was. Now someone's taking a choice away from me. Yes, we all have our individual desires and rights, and there's going to be an intrusion. It appears that my desire to have a property that someone else takes care of and grooms is an intrusion. It's going to be an intrusion on noise. I don't know how to solve that. I'm hoping the landscapers can come up with your efforts for some kind of compromise so that maybe every other week, maybe there's a limit. I know there was an attempt in the years past with another council and it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work as far as limiting the volume. I wish I had an answer. I'm just trying to give you the other side of the coin, that I don't want to pay more. I've used the same landscaper for 20 years. He's a good guy. They're good people, and they do good work. But this past summer, again, it was just based on the timing, but I contracted in the spring, as I always do, for a list of services. They weren't able to perform them fully, and it's fine. I understand this was a trial, and things may change, may not. But something's going to give. Either I'm paying more or I'm getting less resources. I'm just hoping someone come up with a solution. I wish I had one. I'm usually a pretty good problem solver.
So I have a question for you as an economist. You're familiar with...
I have a degree in economics.
Okay, okay.
I don't have a PhD.
I would assume you know about externalities of these decisions, okay?
Yes, sir.
So how would you monitorize the externality of this? So you know, if I had a landscaper and my landscaper's using a leaf blower, the externality here is that my neighbors are getting noise and possible dust. So how would you put a value on that externality? So I don't want to pay more, but isn't there a benefit or a value or some cost benefit for not going and bothering my neighbors?
If that's the question, the answer is, of course. I mean, I believe the answer to that is obviously yes. But then you have to ban the blowers on the weekends. Because on the weekends, or when I'm mostly home, I can close the windows during the week, and I know that's not a good answer for some. For me, I can close the windows on the week. And then on the weekends, I get blowers. My neighbor has it's a different kind of blower. It's when you push the loudest friggin' thing I've ever heard. And he'll run it for 3 leaves on his property. It'll run for 3 hours on a Sunday.
Is that for leaves or for grass?
He uses it all the time. He uses it all the time. But the point being is, then you have to ban them all. Because most of the time, particularly in the summer, the population of Maplewood is probably the least during the day in the summer on the weekdays. So if they're going to be run, seems like the best time to do it. Just saying. But if the answer is going to be binary, well, if you're going to disturb your neighbors, then ban lawnmowers. Because right now, the landscaper, when he could, and he tried to avoid it because he has his own time elements, but he'll run the lawnmower up and down the driveway. And I understand it's a different engine, and I don't know the science of it, but it takes 2 to 3 times as long. And it still doesn't do as good a job as the blowers. Getting them unless they're in blowers, some of the landscapers will care. They'll hire someone midway through the summer and not train them, and you're going to have the same problem. So again, I don't have the solution. I wish I did. But if the question was, is it good that you're disturbing your neighbors? Of course not. But then ban all combustion engines that are on a car. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I'm not sure we all have the answers. I think we just have to keep asking these questions so we can sort it out.
If at the end of the day, and then I'm done, I'm probably over my 3 minutes. At the end of the day, I don't get my driveway cleaned during the summer, it would stink, but I'm not going to pay more money. Just please, just keep the leaf blowers available for the leaves, because there's no way I'm going to be able to pay someone to rake these darn leaves. At least, please, if I could, just ask you to consider keeping the leaf blower for the fall. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Jacobs. I've lived in Maplewood for more than 20 years. I'm in the Wyoming area on the side of our very steep hill. And I wanted to say that I'm one of those people who works in the city, and the things that appealed to me about Maplewood when we selected Maplewood as a town were the great transportation for the Midtown Direct and the beautiful houses and the properties. And I really envisioned being able to enjoy that property moving from Manhattan to Maplewood. So I'm one of the commuters, and I'm there on the weekend, and I don't get to go outside very often, and I am here on the weekends in the summer. I don't guess that not everybody stays here in the summer on the weekends, but we do. So for us, the quality of life is enjoying our house principally during the summer. For me, principally on the weekends, because I get home too late in the evening to enjoy it. And I can't sit outside while the leaf blowers are going. I'm very sensitive to noise. I believe that the timbre of the leaf blower is at a different pitch than a lawnmower. I don't like lawnmowers either, but there's something uniquely disturbing about the timbre of a leaf blower that doesn't seem to me to be the same as the other equipment that we're talking about. And also being on the side of the hill. I think those people who live on the side of the hill, maybe those people at the bottom of the hill also know that there's something unique about Maplewood where you hear noise that's distributed very far away. So if there's a concert in town, we hear the music like we were sitting right next to it. And if there's a leaf blower up the hill, I hear the leaf blower just like it's right next to my chair. So the benefits and the drawbacks of living on a hill, we have a steep driveway, we like to have it clean, but I think that the overarching consideration and the reason people come to this town is the scenic beauty, the convenience, the ability for many of us to commute, and the enjoyment of our homes. And so I would advocate that we come with a reasonable compromise on the hours, hopefully clearing out, speaking personally, as much of Saturday and Sunday as possible. But I also think it should be extended to the homeowners, because I think that the homeowners make just as much noise with the leaf blowers as the commercial landscapers. And I do agree that it's not fair for the ban on some and not others. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to?
Hi, my name is John Walsh. I live on Woodland. I actually brought some pictures. Is it possible for me to pass these around?
You can lift that.
I'll lift this up so it accommodates.
I'm sorry, your name is John Walsh?
John Walsh. I live on Woodland. The pictures I'm presenting to you are pictures we took in July and August of the new tennis courts across the street, which are wonderful, and we've really enjoyed using them over the course of the summer. Unfortunately, as you can see from the pictures, there are leaves and debris on those courts that cannot be removed during the summer because of this ban. I've also included pictures from our house on Woodland, where again we have debris, not just leaves or not just grass cuttings, but also leaves and limbs. It's just a matter of fact that our town is filled with many trees, and each of us seems to have a tree that drops either pollen or leaves or other debris throughout the year, not just in the fall. So I've heard of the points throughout the night, and I understand the concern about the noise. I'd like to present the counterpoint sort of to the necessity for this ban, is that we would make a sacrifice for the beauty of the town, which is one of the draws, one of the draws of the town is the beautiful houses and the beautiful properties that we all, try our best to take care of. The compromise of either limiting the hours or limiting the decibel level, I think would resolve both the concerns of the people that have supported the ban and the people that are opposed to the ban. And I think it is a reasonable compromise that allows us to keep our houses in a way that our neighbors appreciate, sort of the neighborhood, and also, allows the people that stay at home during the day and those people who, are here on the weekend to enjoy peace and quiet. I also heard the discussions about, lawn mowers. I mean, I think the lawn mowers make the noise they make, but if you're going to extend this to blowers, I really think lawn mowers would have to be included as well, because to me, again, I don't have the sensitivities that some of the people here have raised, it's the same. It's just as loud with the lawn mowers next door as it would be for the blowers. The reasonable compromise is to extend it to everyone. Again, I also understand the concern about the discriminating against the contractors, and limit it to these certain hours. I don't know if the study has included sort of what other towns in our area have done. I'm not familiar with what South Orange is doing. I'm not familiar with what Milburn is doing. But again, it seems odd to me that the people that live on the borders of those towns can look across the street and see a neighbor, having a contractor do all that work. They're still suffering the noise pollution that's being complained about here. And, we're the ones that really are punished. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Yes, good evening. I'm Linda Kraushaar, also on Woodland Road. And, I too have observed what many of my neighbors have spoken of to me personally and to some extent here this evening, which is that, frankly, Maplewood has looked a bit shabbier this summer. And part of the beauty of this town and why many of us have moved here and stayed here is because it is a beautiful place. We take pride in our properties and the upkeep of those properties. And what we certainly have observed with the blower ban is that the landscapers have really not reverted to rakes and brooms. I mean, I really frankly haven't seen that at all. And as my neighbor has pointed out, During the summer, the droppings from the trees, they don't stop. It's not the same as during the fall season, but there are always acorns and things dropping, and lawns can look very messy if they're not properly maintained. Now, having said that, we've all experienced what has been discussed here, where you have a neighbor, landscaper pulls up, brings out this mega mower, and behind it are a couple of other landscapers following him with mega blowers, and it's clearly obnoxious. And I think we all agree with that and agree that something should be done there. On the other hand, I believe that's why we have noise restrictions in our laws, in our statutes. And I would suggest that those restrictions be enforced. So, for example, in the summer months, enforce that law that blowers can be used, but with that lower 65 decibel noise range. That if a landscaper comes across a dry dirt patch, it should be protocol that they power down, not just blow up a lot of dust. These are things that I think can be sort of tweaked into our statutes, into our laws, but that can maintain our properties as we like to see them and as we're proud to have Maplewood looking. So I would suggest let's look at the rules we have, let's enforce them, let's tweak them or alter them as necessary. But I just personally believe that a complete ban on the blowers is frankly throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rick Daddario. I've been a landscaper in Maplewood for 37 years. I grew up in this town, went through the school system. I just want to thank you guys for having this open dialogue. It's the fairest way to do things, I believe. Was it really 13 years ago we did the,
yeah.
Because I was involved with that too. And you know what, that would have worked if everybody abided by it and it was enforced the way you enforced this ban over the summer. Because I bought blowers. I know a lot of guys in the business all, went to the expense and bought those blowers. And I was using them, but nobody else was. So finally I stopped using them too and went to the regular blower. But I think there needs to be more discussion on this. I mean, to be honest with you, I was against the blower ban in the summer, in the beginning, but it turned out it was fine. It really was. I mean, I have houses on Woodland Avenue. I heard some people discussing that, saying they live on Woodland Avenue. I have like 8 or 9 clients on Woodland Avenue. And to be honest with you, as it went on, I was cringing every time I did those stops because the driveways were getting messier and messier. But we were using brooms on the sidewalks. Obviously, we can't sweep a 200-foot driveway. But part of the thing is that a lot of people in this town, I would say close to 75% of residents in this town are using landscapers. And that's why the town does look good, because of the landscapers. But I agree something has to be done about those. To be honest with you, those blowers drive us nuts too. That's why we're wearing headphones and stuff. But it's an essential piece of equipment for us in our business. I mean, since the industrial age, this is what's happened. I mean, they've been around longer than the line trimmers. But I think if we have further discussion, I think a total ban is going to be tough in this town for everybody. Landscapers, I think clients, people that are paying to keep their properties looking nice are going to be totally against that also. But I think we could reach maybe an agreement where we could use blowers March and April when we're doing our cleanups. We go to 65 decibel blowers, or maybe May, and then have that ban in those 3 months. But we definitely need them. In this town, Maplewood, with these trees, we can't clean properties without using the back blowers and the big blowers. I mean, it's just too much, especially for smaller companies. I have a 4-man crew and plus myself, and that's just too much. And I tried it, at least with my guys, throttle down when you don't really need to run it full blast because it's ridiculous. And to be honest with you, I saved a lot of gas those 3 months. Well, some of my customers didn't like it, but you know what? Everybody's got to, work with each other to reach a, agreement and to get things, I understand you're trying to go a little green and there's maybe some issues with pollution and stuff. Like I said, I think we can reach something other than a total ban. I think that's going to be a tough call. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your honesty, too.
My name is Jane Conrad, 35 Roosevelt Road, and I just want to say I remember Rick from 13 years ago. How's Caroline? Yes. That's her daughter, who's the same age as my daughter. And just in the group that I was part of, Calm, he was known as Rick the Good. Yeah. So he's been a voice of reason for a long time. So earlier today, I did send an email to people on Township Committee, and I just wanted to, emphasize a couple things from that letter. And then I also just brought with me, in case it would be useful, some of the research that we did 13 years ago on emissions, particulates, a graphic of, the effect of lower noise and so on. So,
thank you. Thank you very much.
So, I just want to say thank you so much for this pilot ban of leaf blowers this summer. In my view, it made a tremendous difference in our quality of life and the civility of our town. For me, it was great to be able to spend time outside in the yard without being driven indoors again and again by the racket. And I'll say it was wonderful, but I sure wish this had been in effect when I had small children, because that was when it really drove me up just crazy, because I'd be just about to get them down for a nap, and then another blower would start in, and if they weren't getting rest, then I wasn't getting rest. But anyway, certainly better late than never. And it was great to see neighbors spending more time outside. And I felt there was more just outdoor conversation, stopping and talking with people on the street, the pleasure of just walking around the neighborhood, of walking to town without running a gauntlet of noise. It really made a difference. And I also noticed it because I started this exercise program, which involved riding my bike back and forth on Sagamore Road, which took me into Milburn. And so Milburn, of course, had not enacted a ban. And so I really felt, the difference every time I'd go over the border and, have that experience. But I'm hoping you will make the ban in the summer months permanent. And beyond this, I would like to urge you to consider extending the ban to those periods in which, in the original ordinance, only 65 decibel leaf blowers were supposed to be used. And that, as I remember, the original intention of the original ordinance was to afford citizens relief from the noise and dust of leaf blowers. And landscapers were supposed to only use the 65 decibel blowers except during a 6-week period in the fall and a month for spring cleanup. And then, of course, as we know, the problem was that the landscapers did not adhere, with the exception of Rick the Good and a couple of others perhaps, did not adhere to this rule. And the town really, with all else it has to do, lacks the budget and personnel to effectively enforce that rule. And so as a result, for the last 13 years, we've had instead this continuation of the much louder blowers, and the citizens have not had relief. So I feel like if we just, if there was a ban on leaf blowers, but if it's just commercial blowers, okay, a ban on them, and then, perhaps with that exception for the fall leaf season, those 6 weeks, And I noticed that the October 15th is really about right, that, before this weekend, even with it being so dry, there really wasn't, that much on the ground. And then a brief spring cleanup, that would provide actual relief. And I feel a ban is much more enforceable than these things where you have to get into like, what is the decibel, what is the model number? It's much trickier to, for citizens, and you don't have the staff to send people around to check on that. So, and then, another important reason, I mean, people have talked about how it fits into their work week and so on like that, but I feel like another reason to extend the ban into the spring and the fall is to protect the health and well-being of our town's most vulnerable group of pedestrians, school children. And I think, the fact that we have children, Maplewood has about 3,000 school children that from September through June, in all neighborhoods are walking to school. And while there may be some differences in different neighborhoods about the incidence of blower use, by the time you're in middle and high school, I know because, my kids went to Seth Boyden Elementary, and I know that, those kids, my kids went to Maplewood Middle, and they're walking, across neighborhoods with blowers. School kids are, and certainly to the high school.
So Ms. Conrad, your time is up, so if you could wrap it up.
All right. Oh, hurry. Anyway, I feel that, let's not lose sight of the fact that we want them to, it's healthy in theory to be able to walk to school, and it reduces, use of cars and stuff, but, their lungs, their hearing is more vulnerable. And another thing that I realized riding my bike on, my little exercise thing, is how you cannot hear the approach of cars if leaf blowers are operating. And I'm an adult, and I just have a reflex to look over my shoulder before I step off the curb or pull into traffic. But school kids do not have those reflexes. And I hate to think about it, but I'm afraid that they could be, contributing to traffic accidents, to unfortunate collisions like that. And if we extend the ban a bit further into the spring and the fall, that gives kids that extra margin. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Sandra Corley, and I live at 556 Prospect Street. I've been sitting here listening to the pros and cons of what to do about the ban on the leafing. And I want to be part of the solution. That's my training, just not to come here and complain, as you said in your opening. However, there are three words that keep coming into my mind as I listen to neighbors talk about this problem. And one of them is discrimination, the other one is respect, and the other one is equality. So that could be on either side. And I certainly understand all of the neighbors who talked about peace and quiet, because in my property, I can sit in my backyard on my deck, and I think I'm in the middle of the park. Except, of course, when the lawn is being mowed or blowed. So there are two sides to every coin. And basically, I don't want to go over all the pros and cons that have been discussed, because I think you need to be applauded for having this meeting. Unfortunately, I don't know why there aren't more residents here, because I think it affects, at least as well as someone said, about 75% of the residents have lawn people who come in and do their lawns. Something needs to be done. I don't know what, but I've learned a lot tonight about rules that we have in place that haven't been enforced. I think you've gotten some suggestions, but I am definitely not for you having a ban. I am one of the people that is totally affected. I have heart trouble. I can't mow my lawn. I can't rake it. I can't blow it. And I can tell you, I was very uncomfortable sitting on my deck watching the leaves all over the place after I paid to have my lawn service do it. So like I said, it's two sides to every coin. But I want you to keep in mind the three words that I tell you that keeps going through my mind, and that is discrimination on either side, respect or lack of respect, and equality for all of us. Something needs to be done, and quite frankly, I think I like the idea of going back and looking at the laws that we already have, figuring out how to enforce them, coming up with some kind of time restraint, something. And I know this is not easy because you're trying to satisfy both sides of it. But I am here to say that I definitely feel I dealt with paying for services that I had contracted for that I didn't get, but I understood it was only temporary. I don't want to go forward with paying my lawn people to do a job that they can't do. For my property, there are so many trees around it, it's no way they're going to take a brush and sweep it. It's just not going to happen. So again, I don't want to go over everything that was said, but I did want to speak my piece, and I am definitely not for a permanent ban on the blowing.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Paul Heistruper. I live on Claremont Drive. Sorry about that. To your issue, I work at home as well, and I do it all week. And the contractor comes once a week, and he's there for half an hour, and he's gone. I can live with that.
I could too.
You work it out. The point is, we live in Maplewood, a town that has huge trees. The leaves fall in the fall. I can understand the issue in the summertime. That's acceptable. You probably can live with that. In the fall, I can't do the leaves. I need somebody to do it for me, just as this last lady said. Somebody has to do the work for me. It's got to be done in some way that makes sense other than hand raking the leaves. So there's got to be some compromise, some way to deal with this issue that allows these contractors in some way to be able to adjust their time or what I've just heard from everybody else, the ability to be able to maybe power them down or deal with it from a health perspective. Clearly, there are times of the day that it can be done where it won't affect the health issues of children walking back and forth. It just seems to me there's got to be a way to accomplish this approach. I don't think it's rocket science, but I do think a ban is totally unacceptable and it just should not be done, especially in a town like this where you want to maintain property values, you want us to pay property taxes that are probably out of control, but you got to deal with those issues, and this is one of them. And I think you folks have to recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so we're all clear, the only ban that's in effect is June, July, and August.
Hi, my name is Susan Lopez. I live at 2 Hemlock Court. I've lived there about 7 years. I've lived in Maplewood about 8. Thank you all for your service. I really do respect and value all that you do. I know it takes an enormous amount of time. I saw a bunch of you on Springfield Avenue on Saturday, and I thought that was just really wonderful. Am I allowed to speak about the ban? As a subcommittee? Sure. Okay, so I actually am on the subcommittee for the assessment of the leaf blower ban, and I kind of stepped up to be on that committee because I was intrigued by the ban. I didn't know it was happening until after it happened, and I'm a middle-aged, slow distance runner. I run in all the communities around here. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm here a lot. And what always struck me about the landscapers in my neighborhood was the efficiency of it. You know, they would come, they do 5 houses. It takes maybe 45 minutes to get a really large chunk of houses done. And maybe on a bad day, I live on a corner, so like the landscaper for this house, this side of the street, would come and do the same thing. And it might be a little bit annoying, but it's limited. It's not all day. I get concerned when I hear like, oh, it was 72 minutes today. I just don't know how a landscaper could make any money if he was blowing a leaf blower for 72 minutes in a neighborhood. I don't understand the economics of that, but I don't have a degree in economics, so please don't ask me that question you asked the other gentleman. But so I just feel like we have to find a balance. I think that there are people who have pools or long driveways that require that kind of blowing of maybe not leaves, but different types of debris. And I feel like we can strike a balance. I'd like to see the original ordinance actually imposed and, what is the word? Enforced, thank you, as maybe for next summer. And then we could take it from there. I think that we've repeatedly heard, and I wasn't here for 13 years, so I can't tell you exactly, but we've repeatedly heard that it wasn't enforced. So maybe it's actually a decent piece of legislation, registration, whatever. Again, don't ask me the technical questions that we could really utilize. Anyway, I just want to close with a quick story. I have a friend who lives in another community, not exactly bordering Maplewood, but very close. And I was at her house. She has a beautiful pool in her backyard and a big circular driveway. And she had my kids over to play in her pool. And don't you know, her landscaper shows up. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this. I was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. It took 26 minutes. And was it 26 minutes? We had to sit in the house and do things. It was, but you know what? They blew off her pool deck. They got her enormous driveway done. And there weren't leaves. It was just debris and that kind of annoying stuff that I've heard people mention. And it's limited. And no, we didn't go out and suck all the air and that they were kicking up. But, you know, it's just not as evil as I think, because it's for very limited and small periods of time. And if it's not, then I think we need to figure out why somebody's blowing a leaf blower for 72 minutes. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how to quite get to the bottom of that discrepancy, but I think we should probably try before we enact another pilot ban or a permanent ban. There you go.
Thank you. I just wanted to say one thing, because I was the mayor when we instituted the ban, and we did enforce it the first year, and we were writing tickets, and landscapers were purchasing the new equipment. But it got harder because landscapers would come and go, and we didn't have the personnel to go out there and measure decibels or actually check on all the pieces of equipment. So it became a difficult ordinance to enforce because of the way, at that time, and I don't know how it is now, at that time there was maybe one or two, maybe one model, maybe two models of 65 decibels. And, but, you know, we did enforce it, we tried. And over the years, it became less, we were less able to do that, so.
And Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to also comment in terms of enforcement. It's one of those things that, you know, it's a classic easier said than done type of thing. I mean, you know, we have code enforcement. We have just a handful of code enforcement officers in this township. Not all of them are full-time, and they're not just charged with enforcing leaf blowers and noise. They're charged with, you know, building codes and, you know, all of our other codes. And I don't think that anyone thinks that the police should be taking time away from their other activities, protecting the citizens of this town to be going around and being the leaf blower police. So, you know, we need to figure out, you know, part of the thing that made this ban, the pilot program, interesting was the fact that it was very black and white. It was during these months you couldn't, you know, if you were a commercial lawn service business, you couldn't use a leaf blower. So it was actually much easier to enforce. So we need to keep in mind, at least, you know, those of us on this side who are going to be voting on this need to keep in mind. So I would ask all of you to keep in mind that we need to come up with something that's practical that we actually can enforce. So coming up with something that's going to be difficult to enforce and then saying enforce it is basically saying don't have a rule at all from a practical standpoint.
Thank you.
Almost forgot my name now. My name is Greg Straffen. I'm here with the New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association. I'm not a landscaper. I don't sell blowers. I've got no horse in this race.
Are you a liar?
What I'd like to do is I'd like to reiterate and emphasize that the council and the board that is going over this should utilize the NJLCA as a source of information. It shouldn't be thought of as us versus them. There's a lot of members who, as of myself, who have ins with manufacturers and can definitely be utilized as a source of information. And your voice is being heard here, and it's going to end up going back to these manufacturers, the blower manufacturers, the two-stroke engine manufacturers. It's going to come up because these members are forefront in the nation for an association that's very proactive at reducing water runoff. They're concerned with nitrogen getting into the rivers because of fertilizer, overuse of fertilizers and pesticides, salt usage in the winter. I sit through these meetings and I have very little to pick up from these meetings other than networking for the product that I sell. I sell trailers and truck accessories. So I go to these meetings and I sit there and I'm amazed at the information that's provided by this association to its members and how proactive the members are at trying to come up with solutions. They don't call it the green industry for no reason. They really are trying to come up with solutions to concerns that both the town residents, councils, and everybody else have, while making it lucrative for small business people and landscapers to do their job and clean up. And it's not just the clippings they're not blowing the clippings back on the lawn just for cosmetics. They're getting that they're getting that grass off the roadway, off the driveway. It's not going to end up in your sewers. So there's stuff to be thought about with that too. Those organics break down in the sewer and they clog the sewers. I'm sure you guys have had to hire jetters to come clean out the sewers in the springtime. That becomes sludge in the bottom of the storm sewers. So
Can I ask you a question about that? Because I would love for the association to train. The reality is that a lot of the blowing that is being done is into the street, and therefore, which is against our current law, but
Okay.
it's done on a daily basis. Some landscapers sweep it up and take it away, but a large portion of them blow it into the street and therefore into the catch basins.
And maybe
into
that
our water.
maybe that should be a bullet point on something that you're considering to reduce your pollution and such, because blowing those organics back into the lawn only help it.
Exactly.
It's going to break it down. It's going to add nutrients and moisture back to the lawn. So I hear these. I've read the reports about the California reports about how leaf blowers dry out the soil, but adding that back to the lawn actually does help it. So there's counterpoints to the points that everybody's making. There are some counterpoints to it too, and I'd like to emphasize that I think you should utilize these folks that have come and spoken tonight. I may not be the best source because snow equipment, trailers, I can help you with that, but there are definitely people in that association, and that's why they're here tonight, because a decision that you make may also affect neighboring towns. As you pointed out, other neighboring towns have concerns and have done. So really, I think, and the people on the board and also the township should consider them as as a source.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
My name's Tom Benicia. I'm a landscaper in town. I live in Springfield. I met with, I guess, the group about a week ago, okay, and I thought we had a very productive meeting. I actually gave them a lot of information. There's a lot of incorrect information about how business is taken care of, about the efficiency of business, and how we go along, taking care of properties and whatnot. The length of time spent on properties is, you'd be amazed how short we're there, maybe 13, 14 minutes on a property, to be able to make a profit at the end of the day. But the give and take we had that night, I thought was very productive. And I thought, basically everyone could see my side of it and my side. They could see the landscaper side of it, and felt as though that, there was a lot of information back to me about, they understood why things were the way they were. Okay. And I think that a compromise could very easily be reached. And as I mentioned that night, we have no problem enforcing things. because during the period where we weren't allowed to use blowers, there's a lot of people in town, there must be over 100 landscapers come to the town that use blowers. Now, there's nobody there to enforce it. No one's going to stop them from using it, although I did stop and mention to them, you're not supposed to be using a blower, there's a fine. And once again, this is where I work. I do a lot of services in town, as do a lot of the other fellows that are here tonight. So, hey, this is the law, abide by it. I don't care. Owner says she's going to pay the fine. If she's got to pay the fine, we're going to use the blowers. Okay? But, basically there is a law. You're supposed to be abiding by it. Most of the guys that, have a lot of services here did abide by the law. And I think we did a very good job of, doing what we were supposed to do. So once again, I think a compromise can be reached. I think.
You also said this at our meeting that you'd be in favor of increased fines.
Oh, absolutely. We work out the parameters that everybody's happy with. I don't care if you increase the fines. That's, it gives the law some teeth. Okay. $100 fine,
right.
$500 fine. You have to think twice about turning your blower on. It's like I mentioned, DWI, years ago, nobody enforced it. Now it's a very stringent fine. That's why people think twice about it.
Right.
So, you give the law some teeth, you set up parameters that everybody can live with. And I think, everybody, I think it will work for both sides. And I think it would be a nice pilot program for other towns. Because if you get the support of the landscapers here and you want to progress into other towns and you want to say, hey, listen, this is what work. We work with the guys in town. They abide by it. They help us police it. We do a good job here. So what better reference would you have going to another town to something that's already worked in your town? And you have the support of the contractors within your town.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is William J. Steinbrun, 141 Jacoby Street, Maplewood. First, I'd like to applaud and thank the Township Committee for taking the initiative and implementing this pilot ban. I think it was very successful. My part of town was quieter. Riding through town, it was quieter. But one of the other important things is less particles, be it grass clippings, leaves, dirt, dust, were blown into the air, making it a lot healthier. There have been hundreds of communities across this country that have implemented either full or partial leaf blower bans, either for certain periods of time or permanently for either just landscapers or landscapers and residents. There's been a lot of data, a lot of research done, and these communities that banned the leaf blowers have used this research, this data. At first, when I heard about the proposed ban, it was, they're noisy. Exactly. In some cases, too noisy. But getting involved and doing research, as I'm part of the subcommittee, doing research, I found that it's a lot deeper than just noise. These leaf blowers, when they're blowing particles around, be it grass, dust, feces, pesticides, these things propagate into the air. And people end up breathing them. You may be driving down the street and you have to roll your windows up if it's a nice mild day. But these things are still going through the airwaves. So to me, one of the important things is that there's a lot of research, there's a lot of communities that use this research and did their bans based on the data available, the health issues, the impact. Children breathe more than we do. It has a bigger impact on them. Elderly, people with different ailments, asthma. So I applaud what the Township Committee did. I would urge that the ban continue and possibly, if not a permanent ban, but be implemented sooner in the year and extended further into the year, say maybe from May 15th or June the 1st to the end of September, or maybe the middle of October. But I think what happened, we've learned a lot from this. There's a lot of data, a lot of research being done, and I think with that, we could come up with something that'll work, that'll make everything quieter and healthier. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Elizabeth Payne. I am not really a landscaper. I'm a gardener. I do pots, planters, and perennial beds. But my story is that I studied genetic engineering in college and then went to Washington, D.C. to write the regulations for genetically modified foods. And then got married and gardened through a whole series of different locations all over the country. I was a corporate wife. And then one day we moved to South Orange 11 years ago. And my neighbor had just put on this huge addition to her house and a huge deck. She's like, I just don't know what to do with my yard. And I said, well, give me a piece of paper and a pen. So she goes out and she comes out. She's like, well, y'all have kids. And, you know, it was one of those typical Maplewood days where all the neighbors were hanging out in her backyard on this brand new, beautiful deck. The kids were running around. She comes out. She's like, I don't have a pen, but I got crayons. I'm like, perfect. So I said, here's your deck. Here's your house. I was like, we hate these neighbors because they are crazy. So, you know, I drew out what I thought she should do. And I handed it to her. And she looked at it. And she's like, this is beautiful. And she's like, how much would it cost to do this? I was like, I don't know, $2,000 in plants maybe? She handed it back to me and she said, can you make it happen? And I said, all right. That was on Saturday. On Sunday, my ex walked out on me, leaving me with 4 children and no means of support. And all of a sudden I found myself needing to set up a business. And they tell you do what you love and the money will follow. So I set up a small business, landscaping. I don't do what Rick and Tom and Anthony's and all the rest of them do. But I am a small business and I'm very focused on the science aspect of it. I have paid my $50 landscaper tax to be registered in the Township of Maplewood. And when I first heard about this leaf blower ban, I thought, Jesus Christ, how the hell am I going to grow my business? Because I'm at this point where I could expand, I could hire a guy, and I could do some more cleanups, which are not my favorite thing. And then I thought, all right, well, we'll see how this goes. We won't use the leaf blower. And I didn't, and guess what? It is a hell of a lot of work to use a rake to get the leaves out of the perennial beds. It is a hell of a lot of work to push a broom down the street or on the sidewalks, not to mention it gets kind of gunked up. I'm also taking the Rutgers Master Gardener's class. So I've now learned the dangers of too much nitrogen in the soil. I've learned the benefits of blowing the leaves and blowing the detritus off of the sidewalks and back into the yard. But let me just ask that you consider a couple of things. One, unlike the other landscapers here, I'm a small business. I don't have 37 years of experience doing this and 37 years of client building. I'm a small business, and I have a choice at this point. I could either decide to leave Maplewood entirely and not do any work here and leave them to, so you have fewer landscapers providing, more services, have more clients, which is going to drive up their prices. That's basic economics, but I am also not an economist, so don't ask me any questions. Or I could decide that I want to hire somebody and grow my business, or I could just stay, and I don't really know which way to go. But I will tell you that this is not 1950. We do not have people sitting around at home with, June isn't sitting at home cooking dinner and Tom going into the city and they're spending their weekends doing the lawn care anymore. 75% of the people in this town do use lawn care services because they go to the city. They go to the city to work. They don't want it on the weekends because they're working in the city all week. They want to come home and enjoy their weekends. I've heard suggestions on bans of Sundays. I do have a neighbor who is Orthodox Jewish, and they don't do any work on Saturdays. So to ban Sunday work effectively bans the whole weekend for them. And that is discriminatory, to use your word. I also have grave concerns about the science that you guys are all looking at, because while your story was lovely, Ms. Adams, the fact is it was a story. It's not scientific. You didn't go back through and say, okay, on October 18th of 2015, I heard this many minutes versus October 15th of 2016, I heard this many minutes. So it becomes anecdotal, and it becomes, unfortunately, unscientific, useless.
Just to stop you, I wasn't doing a report. I was just introducing this topic. I wasn't about to get into all the
Right.
the
I
reports.
don't know the science that's going behind it, but I do know that 13 years ago, a lot has changed in science in 13 years. 13 years ago, we used to believe that the MMR vaccine caused autism. Then that's since been disproven, but 13 years ago, we did believe that. So
I'm not sure anyone really believed that. But.
you were obviously not a parent 13 years ago with kids about to get.
Okay, let's we're getting sidetracked, but that's unfortunate.
And you are over time, so why don't you kind of like wrap it up?
So I just ask that you consider the fact that that if you have a date ban, 5 years ago, we had snow on the 29th of October. 3 years ago, we had snow on the 29th of April. So I ask that you be a little flexible in whatever law you draw up, that you recognize that we cannot control Mother Nature as much as we would like to, as much as you like to think that you can. And just recognize that there are small businesses that by not allowing me to use equipment that makes my job much more efficient, you are effectively eliminating businesses in your town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to say on the science is, we're not going to have realistically science that's going to be Maplewood specific. We have to go with science on studies that, that we get that are much more general. And, if we say that we need to have science that's going to be Maplewood specific, this date versus this date versus that year, it's basically saying don't do anything.
Well, let me just also point out that the studies from California are completely non-correlatable to New Jersey. California is in a completely different zone than New Jersey. It has a completely different climate, and so they have different materials and particulates that are distributed than we do here in New Jersey. So you do have to kind of look at some of that, and that is my biggest concern. You make a decision based on what's good in Arizona. It's not
Well, I don't think
correlatable.
we're looking at making a decision what's good in Arizona or California, but I'm saying, to say that we can't enact anything in Maplewood until we have, a scientific study about Maplewood, I think is not realistic.
Okay. Thank you. Sir, you want to speak? I thought maybe we were just stretching.
I'll be very brief. My name is Steve Rule. I live at 17 Salter Place over in the Gulf Island neighborhood. And just my own anecdote as a fairly new resident of the town who really handpicked this town, a lover of the outdoors, an ex-landscaper. I put myself through school as a landscaper and did it for several years afterward, and appreciate how hard everybody who does that works. But also as the partner of a woman who does work from home in a high-pressure job every day, and most importantly as the father of a 5-year-old asthmatic son, I have to say that I felt like the 3-month ban, which again is all we're talking about, June, July, and August, not the fall, in terms of peace and quiet and peace of mind, in my mind was an unqualified success, and I encourage maintaining it. Which is not to say there are no caveats to that, and you've made clear that you're taking in new information from the landscapers about, I don't think anybody has any interest at all in damaging your business. That's nobody's idea with any of this. So if there are considerations of theirs that can be taken into account to modify this plan, so be it. But I think the way it worked out this summer was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mike Summerskill, 804 Prospect. So just in the spirit of Mr. Lembeck started the discussion with adding new information from when we discussed the last time. So I was here for the last discussion, and there was a resident, I believe it was on Jefferson Road, who referred to the YMCA and their blowing of their parking lot and doing it on a Saturday morning. It was a trouble for him and his family. And sitting there, I was thinking, the YMCA is such a pinnacle of the community. A pillar of the community. I can't imagine them being in a neighbor dispute. And so when I saw the executive director later, I said, hey, James, what's the deal? Why are you blowing your parking lot? And when this neighbor's unhappy, it just doesn't seem like what the Y would do. And so he had said to me, Mike, I'd love to save the $500 a month I pay to have the parking lot blown, but it's a safety concern. I've got to do it. I have to get the wet leaves off or other particulate out of the driveway because I have kids that go through there. And the only time I can do it when there's not cars and not kids is on Saturday morning. I said, that makes a lot of sense. And so I just highlight that. There was another resident who talked about the tennis courts. We've got basketball courts. We've got the parking lot out here. We have schools. So I do think we need to solve for those types of areas, which it's not realistic to use a rake or a broom. And so this ban would affect that, and I think we should solve for it before we enact such a ban. And the last thing I'll say is just I would like to hear testimony from the DPW representatives, even if it's in committee. I just feel like they're our town's expert on this particular matter, and I just would like to hear their perspective. Maybe they've got ideas about how to keep the parking lot safe while not using a blower. So I just like to see us.
I'm sorry, what do you mean safe? How do people keep the parking lot safe?
So the reason that they're blowing is because if you have matter that builds up in the parking lot, it gets wet, you get out of the car, you slip and fall. It's mostly, I'm assuming, an insurance liability thing. I'm not a small business owner, so I couldn't say, but it's definitely a concern about having that debris in somewhere you're getting in and out of cars and you have kids. That's why they do it. It's not a cosmetic thing for many businesses. Anyways, thank you.
So I'm a little confused because are you talking about blowing the grass or blowing leaves? Because the pilot
I don't know that it's either. So I was by the YMCA this weekend on the Saturday and they were blowing again. But it's just
the ban is over. But were you there when the ban was in place?
I was not observing the Y during the ban, but I think we all recognize that there's more than leaves and grass that can come down from the trees, blow from the woods, wherever the stuff comes from, that happens during the summer. And that's the thing I'd like to solve for. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm not expert. I would like to hear from the DPW. They had the ban this summer, so I just think that their opinion is valuable. And
okay,
we should listen to them. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. I'm a resident, and I'm actually a landscaper in Maplewood. I've been living in Maplewood for 30 years. Sorry.
Address?
It's Galen Cope, and I live at 8 Plymouth Place in Maplewood. And I've been living there for about 33 years. And as that ban went in place, actually I lost some customers because of the quality of service that I was providing wasn't the same as what I used to have. And I definitely understand living in Maplewood for 33 years that it's definitely an issue because of the sound. Yes, it is. Me walking home when I was a little boy, I never really thought about that sound, riding a bike and, when you're a little kid, you're not really thinking about that sound, but definitely for health quality, yes, can improve. Maybe we can get a lesser sounding blower, maybe a time limit from maybe 9 to 7, something where it's more comparable for everybody, both sides. But being in Maplewood for 33 years and not being able to use the blower, it's just like, I can't make Maplewood look good anymore, So that's just one of my concerns there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Martin Moore, GFI Landscaping. We've spoken in the past. When we did speak, I wanted to do a demo for you of the 65. I meant to bring it with me that day, and I wasn't able to. I don't know if anybody that you've spoken to after me has done that for you, or the couple of guys that you...
No, I've heard the difference in one, but I've heard the difference between the 65 and the 75. It's like twice as quiet, or...
Okay, I didn't know aware, anybody of how quiet that blower really is. That's why I was wondering, has anybody Has anybody heard it?
We didn't have the demo. The demo that we talked about, no one else has done it for us. So if you'd still be willing to do it, I think we should, I mean, even though it's, the ban is over, the pilot program's over, there's no reason, it would still be equally effective, I assume.
Sure, but I would just think that you would like to see that, like from, say, the back of the building to the street, how quiet the blower really is, and, so you can make your own judgment. There's one or two guys that are going to still come in and speak to you guys, so maybe one of them could bring in, or if you'd like me to do it, I'd be more than happy to do it.
Sure.
Wanna ask-
Susan's sort of our coordinator, so you should talk to her.
Or if you can ask one of the landscapers already scheduled, maybe they'd be willing to bring in both.
Okay, so you guys can work that out.
Yep.
We can do that here. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
So what you're suggesting is bring it to one of your committee meetings, not here,
Here,
not here.
to blow all your papers.
I came and spoke about a month or so ago. My guys were using it because they were out doing maple that day, and I had one, so I couldn't bring it with me. But, I thought it would be good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee on this issue? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to close the public session. We're going to take a break, then we're going to take a 5-minute break and come back. Hey, Ian, can you hit the mic button, Ian? No. Scared us all. My goodness. Mrs. Larry.
I hope you don't have a long report.
Okay, we're gonna get started. Just for the record, that was Mrs. Larrier who banged the gavel, not me. She scared us all. Before you all leave, we just want to thank you for coming. And you're leaving anyway, okay. We really appreciate everybody who came out tonight. Most everyone has left who spoke, but we really appreciate you all coming out. We have a lot more to digest about this, a lot more to talk about, a lot more to research, and we're going to continue to do that. Deputy Mayor Adams and Township Committeeman Lembrick are leading up the committee and looking at this and trying to evaluate what our next steps are. We got the offer of support and help, and we're going to follow up on that. So we really appreciate everybody coming out.
Yes.
Is that good?
Perfect.
Ready to move on?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We're on item number 10.
Mayor, ordinance on final passage. Ordinance number 2829-16, an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will implement time limit parking on Tuscan Road between Valley Street and Prospect Street.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance about the time limit parking on Tuscan Road? Seeing no one, Ms. Adams, can we get a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as an ordinance, passed ordinance in the Maplewood and South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any discussion? If you remember, we amended this ordinance to reduce it to 9 to 12 based on some of the conversations with residents there. So we haven't moved and seconded. Let's have a roll call, please.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mr. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have another ordinance on final.
Item 11, Mayor, on final passage 2833-16. It's an ordinance to establish the fees for the Jitney Pass, commuter parking, the Jitney Parking Combination Pass, and Jitney Daily Fee beginning in 2017. This ordinance will increase the Jitney Pass fee from $92 to $100, the commuter parking fee from $210 to $225, the Jitney Parking Combination fee from $232 to $250, and the daily user fee from $1 per ride to $2 per ride beginning 2017.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance, on the jitney fees? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. And Mr. Grodman, can we get a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to the law.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have another ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor, item number 12, ordinance number 2834-16, an ordinance to amend Chapter 124 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Fee Discounts. This ordinance will expand the list of vehicles eligible for 25% reduction for commuter parking fees resulting from owning or leasing a fuel-efficient motor vehicle.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Mr. Grodman, can we get a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any discussion here? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, and Ms. Fritzen, it's important that we get this list out with the renewals.
Okay.
And that includes a statement that anyone owning any of these cars, when they renew or buy a Jitney Pass, can get a discount.
Okay,
I'm sorry, parking pass.
okay.
Item number 13, new ordinance.
An introduction, Mayor. Ordinance number 2835-16. An ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will authorize the placement of a stop sign on the southwest corner of Hilton Avenue at its intersection with Vermont Street.
Ms. Adams, can we get a motion?
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on November 1st.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. And our last one, ordinance on introduction.
Yes, Mayor, item 14, ordinance number 2836-16 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will authorize the placement of a stop sign on the northeast corner of Tiffany Place at its intersection with Meadowbrook Road.
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on November 1st.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have one discussion item, establishment of senior advisory committee. Mr. Grodman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And as I'm sitting here tonight, hearing people talk about the leaf blower ordinance, it reminds me that in my now 21 years this month, living in Maplewood, working as a volunteer, serving as an elected official, now an appointed official, being involved in politics, I've often heard people talk about coming to Maplewood because of the beautiful tree-lined streets and the charming old homes and the wonderful schools. And there's always been kind of a focus on young families when people talk about coming to Maplewood. And as I've lived here over the course of the 21 years, I have seen that sometimes, and I will preface this by saying just sometimes, issues related to people who have lived in Maplewood for a long time do not get the same kind of attention, or issues related to seniors do not get the same kind of attention. Over the last couple of years, there has been a great effort in the township through volunteer organizations, and some of those volunteers involved were named here tonight. Irene Dunn Savage and Kurt Kiley, for example, have been working hard to make sure that issues related to seniors are addressed on a more comprehensive basis in the town. And in the last year, Mayor DeLuca has gotten involved with the Grata Fund to make sure that the township is also paying additional attention to issues related to seniors. What I am suggesting that we do here this evening is to establish a senior advisory committee. And the reason for that is, as was pointed out earlier by some of the people who spoke during Public Speaks, we have a number of people here in town with expertise in these issues, who are affected by these issues, who would be serving the town well if they were involved in helping to research these issues, provide additional information and input to township officials and administration in moving forward with addressing issues that concern seniors. I've done some research, in looking into committees that are put in place in other towns in New Jersey and other places in the state. And so what I am suggesting is that we have advisory committees on all kinds of issues, environmental advisory committee, for example, recreation advisory committee, and often issues related to seniors have been handled through the recreation advisory committee, which is already pretty well charged with what their issues are that they need to address. So my suggestion is that we do put together a senior advisory committee. My suggestion is that it be made up of 10 people, a majority of whom are seniors, but that the people on the committee are not just seniors, that the people on the committee are people who will be able to address overall township issues as they relate to seniors. It's an additional way to make sure that seniors are fully engaged in the life of this community, which is such a vital community. There's a couple of things that I would suggest as being charges of the committee. Number one being to identify the needs and opportunities that make Maplewood an attractive place, not only for young families, but for seniors and for empty nesters as well. Very often there are people who are, their children are grown. They might not be seniors in the traditional sense of the word, but there's still different needs that come into play for these people. We want to be sure that seniors remain vital and integrated in the day-to-day life of Maplewood. And by doing this, once again, make sure that seniors are engaged in the full life of the community, that it's not just seniors, that the seniors are involved in the entire life of this community, young families working with seniors, young people working with seniors, etc. To make sure that the administration and the governing body makes decisions that are cognizant of the needs of seniors. One of the things that was brought up here tonight was Bill Steinborn, I think, said that, when it comes to particulate in the air as a result of using leaf blowers, a lot of times seniors have additional problems, health-related problems that might cause them to have additional health concerns related to that. And so we want to make sure that senior concerns are being addressed when we address these kinds of ordinances as well. I think just the main thing is to raise the visibility of seniors in Maplewood. I think sometimes they can be a forgotten component of our society in the town, and to make sure that township employees and officials ensure that there's vital and relevant programming and seniors that are being offered for seniors. So that being said, I offer that up as a discussion item for this evening.
So let me fill in the Township Committee where we are with the Grata Fund, because there's a lot of overlap here. Right. So first off, we've been working with South Orange, both on the government level, seniors from both towns, and nonprofits that serve elderly community. And there are now 4 subcommittees that have been established, one looking at infrastructure issues, one at communication, one at civic engagement, and one at structure of the initiative. So we've had meetings last week, and we have meetings of each of those committees this week. And in the Civic Engagement Committee, there was a discussion and a recommendation that Maplewood establish a senior advisory committee. So we're consistent with that. Yesterday morning, we pulled together a meeting of our staff, directors, recreation, health, Annette DePalma for community development, Mr. Manning, myself, and because we're all on different committees, so we wanted to share what's going on. So we also took recommendation of setting up the advisory committee as something we want to move on. Mr. Manning was also going to reach out through his managers association to get some other other models from other towns so that we could have a robust group of things to look at. So what I would suggest is maybe you take the leadership on this, bringing in our, I'm sorry, one more thing that we've talked about yesterday is recognizing that as we relate to seniors in town, oftentimes we do it as single departments and we don't cross. To the degree that we do cross, it is more informal and not as consistent or not as strategic. So we're talking about setting up an interdepartment coordinating council to promote an age-friendly community in Maplewood. And this would be separate from the advisory committee could work with, but this would be the departments of health, recreation, welfare, the library, on a consistent basis, pulling in other departments as needed. So if there's conversations about infrastructure issues, it could be DPW, it could be engineering. If there's policy issues around housing, the code committee's talking about senior housing, co-housing with seniors and stuff, then they could be brought in. So what I would ask, if you would take the leadership on this, pull together the recreation director, welfare director, library, the person there in charge of adult programming, and recreation, I think, and health. So those four: recreation, health, welfare, library. And then put on, and to discuss this, the structure of the advisory committee, and then also bring on others. I would recommend also getting information from Mr. Manning.
Right.
And then come back to the township committee after you meet with this group and maybe some citizens onto this, and come up with a recommendation as to purpose, strategy, terms, all that kind of stuff for the advisory committee. I think that would go a long way in moving this forward. And also, one of the things that's different in South Orange, their group formed independent of the town.
Right.
We're talking about having a group that would be set up by the town, where appointments would be like our other advisory committees through the township committee. So does that change anything? Is that, is there still an advocacy role there? Sometimes if you're of the government, can you advocate for the government? So I think those are some of the things that ought to be talked about, how that can happen. And so if you could do that and bring back something, we already have in place people working through the Grata Fund on thinking about this. Everyone's on board at the staff level of setting up this committee. And I think if you work with and take that, and you can bring something back to us. So that would be my sort of laying out with sort of using the benefit of the Grata Fund with this.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, I've already had an initial conversation about it, and I will follow up with him with the additional departments as well. So, thanks.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Just so, since we're talking about this, there's going to be a presentation to the Township Committee on the action items that are getting recommended out of this. It'll come, I believe, either in very late November, more like early December. The way this is working is that there'll be roughly, I think for just to round all the numbers, about $200,000 available for 2017, 18, and 19. There also is talk of having some kind of a shared coordinator for the initiative. And there's also something we talked about a bit yesterday that the staff is looking at, is how we might want to realign our service delivery. And I think having an advisory committee help the staff think through that would be very helpful. But there are some suggestions that we kicked around yesterday, and I think if we got an advisory committee going, that would be helpful to have them as part of that conversation. And just the other thing is, we should probably not let perfect be the enemy of good. If you think that you can make this happen in the short term, because things are going to be moving quickly, and you're also going off in 6 weeks.
That's right.
So there might be something that we could do on an interim basis of setting up temporary advisory committee to do not only discuss the structure stuff, but also deal with some of the things that are going to be thrown out from Grata. Because there's going to be quite a few recommendations that come out of Grata that we're going to have to start looking at. And even if we had a temporary group through the end of the year working in November and December, that would be helpful.
Great, thank you. Be in touch about that.
Yes. I have a few things for further discussion. First of all, I think this is great. This is something that I know has been sort of mentioned as an idea a few times throughout the year, and I think it would be wonderful to have a formal citizen advisory group on senior issues. I think that's, not only could we, have them raise issues to us, but we could also then refer issues to them and be able to get their advice. So I think it could be beneficial both ways. Also, as the Township Committee liaison to the Recreation Advisory Committee, I can certainly, confirm and expand upon Mr. Grodman's statement that while we have been trying to confront and discuss some senior issues as part of the Recreation Advisory Committee, because there's so many other things the Recreation Advisory Committee focuses on. It does get short shrift, and it's a bit of a square peg in a round hole. So creating a citizen committee that is devoted to senior issues, I think, would be much better than having it sort of shoehorned into Recreation Advisory. On the process point, I would say that I think most, if not all, of our citizen committees have an odd number of members. I think some have 7, some have 11. So we might just want to think about that in case of ties. I'm assuming that there would be a township committee liaison to this. I also think, in addition to all the people that the mayor mentioned, I think having the senior program director at DeHart sort of be a regular attendee of the meetings and is someone who would also be liaising regularly with the members of this committee is something that we should recommend. And along these lines, something that the mayor, I think, was alluding to is many people, both here in Maplewood and in South Orange, have expressed interest in exploring a shared Department of Senior Services with South Orange so that we can expand and improve services in both communities. And I think that's something that this committee could really be helpful in terms of helping us think through those issues and make a smart decision on that. But yes, I'm very supportive of this, and I think the time may already have come, but it's certainly here now.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So you have your task for 6 weeks.
I got my task for the next, it's actually about 10 weeks.
10 weeks, okay. Sorry. Gee, that's right, this is only October. Right?
Yeah.
That's right. I thought we had an election, right? Consent agenda, maybe it was my dream.
President Trump.
Can we get a motion on the consent
Can
agenda?
I just ask one question regarding the consent agenda? And I know everybody on the Township Committee probably got the same email this evening that I did. How many crosswalks are there on Wyoming Avenue?
6.
We're requesting 6.
Okay.
We had previously requested 5, and now tonight with.
We're adding a 6th.
Yeah, with Ridgewood, that would be the 6th. So this isn't to the exclusion of the 5 we requested
Got it.
for. We're
Got
adding,
it.
we're supplementing.
So anybody who's watching this here tonight will know that there are going to be 6 crosswalks on Wyoming Avenue in Maplewood.
Yes.
Right, thank you.
That we're requesting the county.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, there's one thing I'd like to, just on the minutes of October 4th, says on page, well, it's the discussion about the signs. It has me saying that the only limit on signs are foreclosure. No, the only limit on signs now are for sale signs.
Okay.
Okay. We don't have foreclosure signs. Should we get a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. This is our second public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
Mike Summerskill, 804 Prospect. I know you've seen me up here a lot today, but it's just these matters are important to me. I just wanted to follow up on Maurice Briefer, just to remind the Township Committee, that was a gentleman that was here 2 weeks ago from Warren Road who had the concern with the Durand Gully. And he's I think a 91-year-old World War II vet, was frustrated with service delivery in the town, came to you for help. So I just wanted to see if we were able to do anything for him in the last 2 weeks.
We are not able to do anything for him, and we will be notifying him by mail and other residents on his side of the street who have the gully issue. It's not a township issue, it's a private property issue.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. We're going to close the public comment period. Reports from departments. We didn't get a tax sale report. At least I didn't. Did we get a tax sale report?
It's attached to your agenda and backup.
What?
It's attached to your agenda
And
and
backup.
backup.
Oh, okay.
One
Okay.
sheet.
All right.
It's
Okay, administrative reports, Mr. Manning?
Yes, I just have two items. First is I need approval to go out to bid for the recycling contract. It ends at the end of the year. We asked the contractor, because we're allowed to continue it for a second year at the terms in this contract, but he said that the commodities market is changing and he can't really provide it for what he did this year. So that leaves us with no choice but to go out to bid for recycling.
He's eligible to bid again, right?
Yes, yes. So if we could have a motion.
You need a motion to go out for a recycling contract.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
This is sale, right?
Sale.
This is not pickup, this is.
Oh, this is the sale?
Yes.
The sale of recyclable materials.
Right, of the materials.
Okay. So this is a motion to go out to bid for a sale of recyclable material. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Grodman?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Mr. Lindberg?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
And the second and final item I have is that to remind people that the farmer's market is still there. It will be every Monday, 2 to 7 at Indiana and Springfield Avenue. They will be open right up through the Monday of Thanksgiving week. Great produce are there, the fall vegetables, et cetera. So please get down there. There's also to-go items, frozen, et cetera, that people can purchase also, and pickles. And that was it, unless there are questions.
Any questions for Mr. Manning?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Desiderio?
I have no report, Mayor.
Uh-oh, that's dangerous. Any questions for Mr. Desiderio?
Why don't you have a report?
Okay, all right. Ms. Fritzen?
I've never been asked that question, quite frankly.
Ms. Fritzen's going to make up for it.
I understand. I yield my time to Mr. Fritz.
Mayor, just for anybody that's listening, I gave the Township Committee and as many people as I could this sheet concerning voting and mail-in of absentee voting. The biggest question we get, and again, we've had a steady stream with the presidential election of people registering to vote, people that haven't voted in years, etc. It's just what you have to know is you're still really in great shape as far as the lag time that's needed. Like if you registered to vote today in the Township Clerk's office, you cannot mail in your vote by mail ballot at the same time. Because what happens is, and this happens in every county, in every state, that the departments that's doing your registration, they don't know about you if they haven't processed your registration and they get the vote by mail. So they toss your vote by mail request out. So what I say to people is you have plenty of time. You have till November 1st for the County of Essex to get that. That's 2 more weeks. So if you registered to vote this week, tonight, wait a week before you mail in your, hi, I need a request for an absentee ballot. That's it. Next Tuesday is our volunteer appreciation dinner. That's hosted by the township and the township committee members. We have, 100 people signed up already, which is a real nice turnout. I hope that the township committee will join us. And that's at the Woodland from 6 to 8. A couple more things, jumping back to the election, I just want to say is that we all have confirmed that schools are closed on Election Day. And we're also going to be having greeters at the Maplewood Community Center. They're young people that are being hired actually by the county because we have 5 election districts at the community center to be there and assist with the street map and direct voters to their various polling locations. So again, that's going to be an addition that we're doing at the community center. The other thing is I'm going to have the solar board put out at the firehouse just to direct voters in 2 and 17 that they should be voting at the Woodland. Again, in presidential elections, you get a lot of people that vote every 4 years. And it will be new to them to go to the Woodland, so we want to try to alleviate any confusion. That's it, unless you have any questions.
I have a question while the mayor is chewing. Mrs. Fritzen, the deadline for filing those applications for absentee ballots, vote by mail, is November 1st?
Correct. They must be received by November 1st, which is 7 days prior to Election Day, either via U.S. mail, by hand delivery, by messenger. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Reports from elected officials. Mrs. Larrier.
Yes, Mayor. We had a Public Safety Committee meeting. We got a request actually from Ms. Adams about the proliferation of off-leash dogs in Maple Crest Park.
Yes, that was a resident was reported to me.
Yes.
So I reported to you.
Well, we had that discussion with Chief Semino, and apparently the police have actually patrolled the park for off-leash dogs in the last 2 weeks. He did suggest that it is a problem. And if you see an off-leash dog, he would prefer, rather than hear it through the Public Safety Committee, would rather have residents call the non-emergency police number. That would be 973-762-1234. If you see them. And they will be actually on the lookout for them, and the health officer has also been alerted. That's something we need to pay more attention to. Seems to come in cycles. I think it dies down probably because we patrol, and then once it starts to build up again, we patrol again, and then it goes away. So
are they going to be, this pertains to Memorial Park as well and other parks?
this pertains to Memorial Park as well.
Okay.
Actually, I would say it pertains to anywhere because we have a leash ordinance in town. See them wandering down the middle of Midland Boulevard with their dog off leash, call. I'll call because I live there.
Is that it?
That's my report.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Adams.
Trying to decide which way you're going.
Yes.
Yes, Mayor, I'm reporting from the Engineering and Public Works. As a resident came up and mentioned earlier, we have begun the pilot program in a section of the Hilton neighborhood where homeowners should pick up 15 free bags from DPW and bag their leaves and place them between the curb and sidewalk for pickup according to their schedule. The program is so we can evaluate the cost savings, if any, the ease of pickup for Public Works, and also for safety on narrow streets and leaves taking up parking spaces. So that program has begun. So residents in that area should pick up their bags at Public Works. Also, we'll be buying recycling containers for the village. Actually, there'll be double units with regular garbage, and they are the compacting units called Big Bellies. Those should be getting to the village. We have in the next couple months, I hope. So you should see new ones of those. Sorry?
Did we determine the ones that are there now that are smaller, they are going on to the basketball courts? Yes?
I don't know if they're going on the basketball courts, but we can.
I think you asked to have one put there, right?
Yes.
One there.
At least
Okay.
one, yes.
We haven't decided where the other ones are going yet.
I will let DPW know. Okay, sorry. Also, there'll be, has the ordinance been published for the stop sign on Maplewood Avenue that, at Baker? It's done. It's
It's been
there?
published, right? Yeah, it's been published, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm just,
On final, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to follow up to see if we could get the electronic sign needs to go on in advance of that being installed, or even when it's installed, we had discussed at the meeting putting that emergency sign up so that people will be aware that there will be a stop sign there where there hasn't been one. And that's at the intersection of Maplewood Avenue and Baker on the northbound side of Maplewood Ave.
The signs.
And just,
We'll get it.
okay, thank you. And then at the Woodland, I just wanted to let people know that we are doing improvements to the soundproofing on the doors that open up to the parking lot. Those should be helping with sound bleeding from events at the Woodland to the neighboring houses and downtown. And they are beginning the kitchen renovations soon. They're beginning the kitchen renovation at the Woodland.
Right, yes.
Like momentarily. I'm not sure exactly what the date is, but that was discussed and that'll be moving forward. So that's all my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Rodman?
Just one quick announcement. Joe Strupp had mentioned before the pretty devastating fire that occurred this weekend, and what a great job our public safety department did. Also, our mayor was there working with the Red Cross to help the families. I just want to let people know that Clinton School is also collecting Target and Visa gift cards to try to help those families, so that if you do have children who are students at Clinton School, or you want to help out in any way, just bring a Target or a Visa gift card to Clinton School, and those gift cards will get to those families. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lindberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Recreation Human Services Committee recently reviewed fees and is going to be making some recommendations for fees for the Woodland and also the Bergdorf Center. While that is on our mind, I just wanted to remind everyone that we do have outstanding spaces available in this township for events large and small at the Woodland and the Bergdorf with very reasonable rates, especially for residents. Following up on the formula business ordinance discussion that we had at our last meeting, I just wanted to give an update that the Economic Development Committee discussed that this morning and had a very productive discussion and raised a number of ideas and issues, and we're going to be continuing to discuss that in the Economic Development Committee. The Maplewood Village Alliance is planning to have a discussion about that issue tomorrow night, and it'll be interesting to hear some of their views. And obviously, there'll be public meetings before we move forward with anything like a formula business ordinance, and those meetings would include both merchants and also the general public. A report from the Recreation Advisory Committee. We're holding a public forum tomorrow night to discuss the proposal to build a new basketball court and/or refurbish the tennis courts at Maple Crest Park. The meeting begins at 7 p.m. It's being held in the Shelter House right in Maple Crest Park. Everyone is welcome. We especially welcome people who use the park and people who play basketball and would play basketball if there were a court at Maple Crest Park. People who cannot make that meeting but would like to share thoughts can email maplewoodраc@gmail.com with your comments. Again, that email address is maplewoodраc@gmail.com, and that goes to members of the Recreation Advisory Committee that will share those comments with the rest of the committee. Finally, a somewhat belated report from the Swimming Pool Advisory Committee. The Maplewood Community Pool finished a very successful season. It was our 50th anniversary, and we had a very festive 50th anniversary celebration that was a big success. This year, we also launched a new website that was built by Jeremy Urban, one of our new Pool Advisory Committee members. And this was also the first year, I believe, in decades when we actually increased membership at the community pool. So hopefully we'll see that trend continue as more people join the pool and see the value in that wonderful recreational facility that we have here in town. And I'd like to thank Missy Mancuso, our recreation director, Joanne Cherico, our pool committee chair, and all the members of the Swimming Pool Advisory Committee for their hard work this year. which culminated in a very successful season. And that is my report, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. 4 items I have. One, the People for Animals is submitting a proposal, or submitted a proposal for the former Jersey Animal Coalition building at 298 Walton Avenue in South Orange. We did meet with them before they submitted it, their proposal. We are, going to see what comes out of that. There may be some possibilities of sharing services with them going forward. So we did have a meeting with them, and I think there's some possibilities there. On Saturday, we signed an agreement with the South Orange Rescue Squad. They are formerly our backup, even though they've been doing it for a number of years. Now they are our primary backup in the evening and the weekends. And they were at the fire. We had all of our firefighters were fighting the fire. So it was good to see the South Orange team there. We thank them for that. This Monday night, the 24th, we have our Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Summit at the Woodland starting at 7:30. Please come out and share with us your suggestions and concerns of how we might make Maplewood safer. And lastly, the Society of Musical Arts is doing a concert on Sunday, October 30th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the middle school. And I am going to do the narration of the Lincoln Portrait by Aaron Copeland. So I will be up there doing the Lincoln stuff. So it should be fun. With that, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you on November 1st. Hit that button.
Mayor.